EJ screams like electric crest. Purple kings put to the test. Jedediah flew so high through the vast and starry sky. Hardcore move, no retreat. Failures never taste as sweet. Science lessons learned in flight. Journey on through endless night. Hardcore mode with no retreat. Failures never taste the sweet. Science lessons learned in flight. Journey on through endless night. For the stars, we aim so high. The poor jet did kiss goodbye. For science and purple light, we'll keep flying through the light. Rocket launch with hope so grand. EJ's got the master plan. Thrusters burn to reach the moon. In his eye you see the tune. Orbit dreams won't be delayed. Lessons learned from missions made. Turbo kind will forge a path to the stars beyond this path. For the stars, we aim so high. The poor jet did kiss goodbye. For science and purple light, we'll keep flying through the light. Rocket launch with hope so grand. EJ's got the master plan. Thrusters burn to reach the moon. In his eye you see the tune. Keep flying through the light.
Well, hello everybody. This was supposed to be Starlink 12.7 launch coverage, but they moved it back an hour. So, you know. That was supposed to be like starting now, but they were just like, nah.
Discovery.
Like right after I signed out from NSF, they moved it to 5:05. Hey, Tiny Horn, thanks for the Prime sub. Appreciate it. We get an hour to just chat. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of that today. Yeah. Been doing a lot of that. I mean, yeah, we could just chill. I could burn another hour. It's all good. We could play some games after that. Today's schedule got completely screwed up. How it was supposed to go, is I was supposed to do the coverage for NSF in the morning and then switch here at noontime, play games, do Space News, cover the launch. Yeah, that schedule's completely out the window. Tiny Horn, you should have come out to the Astro Awards with Jack. Oh, I would have loved to. Wasn't invited. I'd go, sure. You see the company there? Yeah, of course I'd go. I thought it was invite only. Am I wrong? I don't know if I'm cool enough to do that. Oh boy. Blame Tim? Ah, don't blame Tim. You can't blame Tim. How can you blame Tim? He's Tim. He's Tom Dude. The sometimes Astro Boy. Nah, I like Tim. Tim's cool. I got to talk to him when I was down in Boca for Flight 7. Got to talk to him. It's cool. It's a good time. Kerbal time. I said we would play Kerbal today, but I think we'll do that. I think what we'll do is we'll combine Starlink 12.7 launch coverage with space news. So Bert is finally getting his chopsticks. Feels like he just got stacked yesterday. Nice. All right, so here's what I'll do. I'll retitle both the streams to just the space and rocket review for the day. The space and rocket review. And then that space and rocket review will include Starlink 12.7. And then after that, we'll play some KSP for a little while. And we'll go from there. The launch was supposed to happen now. I was going to start space news with the launch, but you know, we'll just go from there. So if you're on the Twitch side of things, you wonder where I've been all day. I've been commentating the crane lift to lift the chopsticks for NSF here. I've been over here in this stream doing work for NSF. The support over there is unreal, guys. Like there was so much support in there. I hope people enjoyed it. It was a fun stream. We had to stop it though, because I don't want to break my streak. I've covered every single Falcon 9 launch this year, and I don't want to let the streak die. All right? So I was like, I gotta go. It's Starlink, sign me out. And then I got here and fired up the stream, and they pushed it back an hour. So here we are. We're just kind of sitting here in a holding pattern, which has basically been par for the course the entire day. It was really great. Thanks, Pat. You are a nerd. Yes. Daytona practice when? Just kidding, but just kidding, for real. Hey, Yarg. Need a crane guy on with talking cranes? Nah, they're all kind of dumb, goalie. I don't want to talk to them. Yeah, dude. I mean, I have to ask, but I wouldn't be against it. So yeah, that's what's going on. They have been moving the chopsticks around, lifting them up. They started over here. See the cranes moving around. Yeah, that's when we showed where the thing was made. See, there they go. It's amazing how big it is. Yeah, dude, it is no joke. Oh, they're rotating it now? JL scrubbing. I saw people doing it in chat. I was like, don't do it in chat. Dang it. I can't tell if they're rotating it.
Go at throttle up.
Pat's tier 1 6 months in advance. Yo, thank you so much. That really helps. Paid in advance. Thanks. Oh, boy. Yeah, boy. Good job on the stream. We watched it, Tiny. Right on. But anyway. Thank you, thank you. I'm glad you guys like it. I always try to bring my A game when I'm over there. Not that I don't hear, but hey, Marcos, what's going on? So yeah, we're kind of in a holding pattern here. Nice dump truck. He hates us. He doesn't do it here. He hates us. Yep, you got me. This is a euphemism for how my day has been going.
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
He's gifted a sub to I Like Cranes. All right. Cranes are pretty cool. How's Titan? Titan is just fine. I played with him this morning. And then I went grocery shopping. And then I showed up for NSF. Call every dog a puppy. Yeah, that's fair. Oh, boy. So, we're doing some space news here. I Like Cranes. Is that goalie's alt? I think so. The Space Pope. Bless the stream. Sup, man? Sorry you had jury duty all day. I assume you saw some of the Rolex. I watched as much of it as I could. Scary got robbed, dude. They got robbed. I talked to him. He was bumming, man. They got second. Because that splash and dash and then the full course yellow screwed them completely. It's just a shame. That sucks so hard, dude, to go that hard. And I was telling him, Max, I was telling him, I'm like, dude, I don't think you got anything to be ashamed of here. You podiumed at the Rolex 24. That's way better than you did last year. They got 6th last year. I was there, you know? 6th to 2nd is no joke. That's a big deal. The guy who does my liveries for an FNR was actually a Rolex. Nice. Yeah, they got 2nd in class, all systems. That's pretty good, dude. That's pretty good. But they were... And whoever came up with that stupid drive-through penalty for doing an emergency stop. Yeah, crazy. That car definitely had the pace. They're on to some good things, dude. If it weren't for the stupid emergency service, they would have won. Exactly, man. Exactly. They got robbed, man. I was watching it. I watched as much of it as I could. But yeah. This year's Rolex is probably the least I've ever watched due to my schedule and it being on Peacock. But you don't want to watch it on Vegetable Schlong? I mean Peacock? It's a good joke. Oh, it works. Anyway. You're looking at unused wristbands right now. You only saw him breaking the fourth wall coming through the green screen a long time ago. Yeah, he does that. I missed a few hours because of a nap and fired the missiles. But I was around for the whole thing. It was exciting for almost the entire 24 hours. How about that crash in the middle of the night where the LMP car coming out of turn 1 dink? Dude, I thought he got doored. He didn't get doored. It's just cold tires. That thing was going straight, and then it wasn't. And then he came back on the track. That was nasty, dude. You were at the Rolex 24 all week. That's cool, 9. I wanted to go, but it was either go to Flight 7 or go to the Rolex. And I hadn't seen a Starship launch before, so I went to Flight 7. Nice, Sawyer. There you go. Yeah, that caddy got messed up. You enjoyed the fireworks. Dude, the Rolex 24 is so cool. I want to go. I want to go again. But rockets, you know. But this is pretty good. Will you be going to Les Mullets? I would like to, yeah. Yeah, hands down, of course, Flight 7. Yeah, right, 9. Like you cannot go to a rocket launch. I love race cars, but I love rockets more. You know? Archie, you once got bored a while ago and it found out that a Block 3 Starship might have enough Delta V to be its own SSTO. 2,300 tons of prop, 369 seconds specific impulse for sea level and vacuum engines, 175-ton dry mass is 9.5 kilometers a second Delta V. No payload, though. It could work, man. I mean, Archie, I was thinking about it. If you put... Okay, we all know that, like, Starship right now is going to have to refuel a bunch of times for HLS, right? But you know what I was thinking, dude? I did the math out once, too. We did it out on stream. If you just built, like, an exact carbon copy of the LEM from the Apollo program, and you took a Block 3 Starship with 100 metric ton payload capacity to low Earth orbit, you put that lander inside a Starship's payload bay and obviously gave it away for people to get in it and deploy, right? Starship could fly to low lunar orbit with no refueling. Deploy the lander, have the people come back, and if you could figure out boil off, it would have enough to come back and I don't know if it would have enough to land, but it could aerobrake to recircularize and refuel. Crazy, right? That's nuts. That's absolutely insane. The where Starship could potentially take us is wild. They also have pineapple long drink in Florida and a keg of twisted tea. Nice. A keg of twisted tea. Oh boy. Apollo style Starship. Let's do it. Starship Block 3 with 100 metric tons to Leo. Could easily do it. If it was 150, if they nailed the 150 metric tons to Leo, it could go out, deploy the lander, deploy a LEM. LEM could go down, LEM could come back up, people could get back in Starship, and they could get right back down to the surface. That's all provided they mitigate boil off, but I think they'll get that. I think they'll get it figured out. Would Blue's lander fit in Starship? Maybe. It's possible. Could it lift itself without SRBs? Yeah, I think it could. If they could manage to solve the boil-off in the long term, imagine the utility provided from a tanker network. Yep. We're setting up the infrastructure here that they're setting up the infrastructure that could really be some game-changing stuff. Hey, Duna, 106-month resub. Happy New Year. Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well. Could a Saturn V first stage lift the Starship second stage, or is the thrust-to-weight ratio too low? I think the TWR is too low, Marcos. Well, I think it would barely just not be able to do it. Like, we're talking like a 0.9 TWR or something. That was very rough math off the top of my head. Any more talk about using Starship for point-to-point travel on Earth? I want my 90-minute flight to anywhere. I think it's in SpaceX's roadmap at Mana. It's in their roadmap. I don't think it's soon, but I think it's in their roadmap. Oh, man. Man, those streams take a lot out of you, dude. That's a lot of talking. EJ, could you hold up a stack of papers to show how thick the Starship outer shell is? I can't visualize 3mm. Give me a moment. I have some change here. That'll do it. Uh, yeah, about that. I have 2 pennies, a dime, and a quarter. Or no, two dimes, a penny, and a quarter. That's actually it's closer to just 2 dimes and a quarter. It's closer to that. It's basically that right there. It's not very thick, dude. Yeah, about 1/8 of an inch. It's not thick. A quarter is 1.75 centimeters, so it's almost 2 of that. It's a little more than it's probably 75 cents. 3/4 is 3/4 is about the thickness. That holds back millions of gallons of fuel. Cryogenic. Yes, it does. It's the pressure that keeps it structurally sound. Could they put a system inside the tank to make sure the liquid stays liquid? Boil off mitigation. Or turn it into gas if it boils off. A refrigerator, attaching a giant refrigerator to your rocket tray usually could help. Problem is, refrigerators are heavy. Is that an insurmountable problem? No. Yeah, you need a reefer ship. That's right. Space is cold. Just get there first. Yeah, space isn't cold. It's nothing. Things tend to get cold in space, but also things tend to get very hot in space, too. Are the propellant tanks for Starship insulated from the outer skin? I don't think so, Dan. I think their fuel lines are. But they do have header tanks and stuff, so that could help. That could, the header tanks that are in the booster and the ship could definitely help because technically they're vacuum insulated. Are refrigerators heavy in space? No, they're high mass in space. Put the ships in anti-sun synchronous orbit. Okay. Always in the dark then, right? I don't think you can do an anti-sun synchronous orbit, dude. Um, no, I'm pretty sure you can't. But like, okay, so their header tanks are inside, and it's if you have the header tanks inside of your main fuel tank, it's dark inside of the main fuel tank, and if there's no fuel in the outer fuel tank but fuel in the header tank, right? There you go, vacuum insulated tank. That should do it. That should be enough to mitigate boil off, but now it's just moving around propellants and stuff. That gets a little. That could get that's kind of the unknown part of it, I guess, if I had to say. So is EJ coming back? What? I don't know. Let me go check. I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's coming back. I don't know. Maybe. Hand over through Tidris. Yep, yep, yep. This is EJ's AI, I think. Yes. Oh dear. No, this is Patrick. Actually, I really could do with another cup of coffee now that I'm thinking about it. I'm actually just gonna go do that. I'll be right back. Just chill. Starlink is coming in a second. Oh, it's going to be a rat. Okay. Okay. We named the dog Indiana. Every time EJ has the Ford head on, the That's a Ford Ranger song gets stuck in your head. Oh boy. Oh no, the lizard people got EJ. Now he's one of them. That's not true. That's not true. You could watch the ice Poseidon sleep in Japan. I I don't know what that means. Did you see the 24-hour? Oh yeah. Scary got robbed by a full course yellow, Coltec. That's just what a lizard man would say. Are we spouting nonsense in chat today? That seems fun. Yes. Nodders. He was catching P1, just needed 30 more minutes. Right, Cirrus? They got I talked to Scary. He was not happy. He was not happy about getting second. Let me put it to you like that. He was not pleased. He's like, we put our heart and soul in this, man, we got screwed. I'm like, that sucks, dude. I'm sorry. Car factory? What? Have you started making Mercedes yet? Dude, in workers? Oh, we got the factory running, dude. It probably, I think I've produced maybe 60 or 70 cars. Yeah, pretty good, man. You can make a pretty good profit off of it. We got to figure out, we got to do the, we got to finish doing the arbitrage stuff. Arbitrage stuff takes time because that container ship takes so long to empty. But right now we're kind of waiting. We're kind of in a holding pattern for the Starlink launch. Who was angrier, him or that Corvette driver? The Corvette driver, dude. All right, I think my coffee's done. Hey, Carson, what's up? Wait, Carson, are you the Carson from NSF or the Carson just from the stream? Because there were a couple of Carsons here. Carson, identify yourself. Space Engineers 2 came out today. It did. Waiting for the sticks to lip. Right on, right on, right on. Oh, yeah. Play Beam? Dude, we used to race stuff. I used to race things in Beam all the time. We used to do Time Attack. I push buttons in the background for NSF. Okay, so that is the Carson. Dude, good job producing, man. I know I'm kind of all over the place. I'm kind of all over the place with where I go. I'm just trying to keep chat engaged. That's what I do. Yeah, that's what YouTube likes. Oh, you got gifted a sub.
This
Look
is
at that.
Space.
All right,
I'm in space.
Carson, I'm gonna get my coffee. You want some? I get you a coffee, dude. I get you a coffee. We'll stay awake here. All right. A cup of coffee? Yeah, here you go. Here you go. How do you take it? I like my coffee like motor oil. Ah, I just burnt my tongue. Anyway, Carson, you did good, man. You did a good job. Thank you. It was fun. It's fun working with you, dude. I'll host any show you produce, man. Rallying in Beam is actually fun. Ryan, dude, you are not kidding. Yeah, that's when I used to stream Beam. I mean, I still do, but I used to. Mitch Hedberg. That's what we used to do. I used to do time attack with cars. We just went into free roam. We made our own tracks, right? Made our own circuits, right? And then did like a hill climb. But the cool thing is that I would take cars that had no business doing a hill climb, like a pickup truck or something, and then, do a hill climb with the stock D series, right? In Beam, the pickup truck, and then modify it slowly over time to show like what type of suspension upgrades are better for hill climbing or better for rallying or something, which was actually super cool. Yeah, we also put a jet engine in a semi truck and it exploded. It exploded. Yeah, it blew up. Yeah, that's what I used to do. I mean, if you guys want to see that, we could do that. I do have on my list of things to do is I write stuff down. I'm a dinosaur. Say whatever. I don't care. I don't forget anything. I do have fixing my racing rig here up. And Beam actually would be a good way to test that now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, have you ever done the Pikes Peak map in Beam? Yes, I crashed a lot. I thought we were playing Space Engineers 2 today. I did say I was going to do that. We probably should do that after the Starlink launch, I think. Yeah, we're going to need that on Friday. That's right. We are doing our racing league, the EJRA Racing League that we do in Assetto Corsa is coming back. We have the return. I actually talked through the schedule with Max over the weekend, and it was quite good. We have a good thing planned here. Do you play Spaceflight Simulator? No, I don't, Marcos. I don't play that particular game. Actually, dude, how I got big in the streaming and spaceflight world is Kerbal Space Program. I played KSP. I still do, once again. I played it last week for the first time in actually a while, but I have probably like between 15 and 20,000 hours in KSP. I literally played it. I played KSP pretty much every day from, I'd say 2014 to about 2022, 2023, somewhere in there. Yeah, almost every day. I've played a lot of KSP, is what I'm trying to tell you. Did you see the sticks are fully in the air? No, but we can. I had it up on my other monitor. And it's always something with EJ hosting. Okay. All right. Yeah, like I said, Carson, I know I'm all over the place, dude. I'm all over the place. What I'm trying to do is keep that chat going. Keep that ticker going. Keep it going. Because what are we going to do here? What are we supposed to do with this? Like, oh my goodness, look at that. Look at that. Oh, that's it. Look at it rotate. Get rotated, nerd. Yeah, that's right, Tessa. Yep. Yeah, of course, Mike. Sunshades would be a good idea to mitigate boil off. Absolutely. Dude, look at that. Now, if you're coming in from the NSF, and Carson, I wasn't just saying this to say this. I actually am a crane nerd. I love cranes. You know why I love cranes? Because they do that. That thing is not light, and it's just moving it. It's just moving it. No problem. Look. Dude, what the actual snot is going on here? That's crazy. That's crazy. I freaking love cranes, dude. Cranes built this, man. Without cranes, you can't have booster catches, man. Would you just look at it? Would you just look at it?
Yeah, the only.
Oh, would you look at that?
Would you look at that? Did you ever go back and play the old alpha versions of KSP? No. And the first KSP I ever played was 16.1. That was June of, or no. It was like June of 2012 or something. It was summer, in the summertime. Are you going to be covering the SpaceX launch? Of course, Blue. Shut up, Colteg. You know, shut up. Dude, absolute beast mode. Look at that thing. That's awesome.
Just look at that.
I can't.
People make cranes. Cranes make bigger cranes. Bigger cranes make towers. Cranes make chopstick arms. Chopsticks arms catch boosters. Damn right, dude. And Carson, like, I was down there a week and a half ago. I saw this thing up close. Like, what the actual... Dude, I have no words. Like, I get paid to talk. What? Dude, Dawes and I were sitting there setting up trailer with Erebors and Jack, and so Jason and Jack, and I'm just sitting there going, what the hell is this? What is this? What is this? What is that? Would you just look at it? Do you have BD Armory? I don't really play that hardcore modded KSP, Marcos, to be honest. I always played stock KSP so people could better understand what I was trying to do, because we did some despicable things in KSP. The current project I'm working on in Kerbal is making that. This. And these. With stock parts in KSP, because I'm a little bit masochistic, okay? Like, what do you want to do? I don't know what you want. Dude, oh, that's so freaking cool, man. I did disgusting things to KSP. I did things I'm ashamed of. I'm not. Yeah, dude, when I saw Starship go, first time I went to Starbase was in the pad AOLM supports just poked out of the ground, right? Yeah, dude. I mean, see, like, I've been an NSF fan for a long time, Carson. I've been a spaceflight fan for a really long time, dude. My first Falcon 9 launch that I watched was Cassiope in 2013. It was the first Falcon 9 1.1. That's how far I go back. And even then, I was a fan during the shuttle program. I was on the NSF forums, albeit lurking, in high school. I was not in high school at any recent time. So, like, I've been following this for a long time, dude, to see all the progress, because I know what this place looked like. I was following it when they first poured the concrete to make Starhopper, right? To make this freaking thing. Like, to see it how it is now, like, it's crazy, dude. There's a guy named Ram Spaceflight on YouTube. He has a fully stocked tower ship and booster. Nice, Mike. There you go. Condor remains unmatched. Yeah, right. Yeah. wish we should have kept going with MLV. Dude, look at that thing freaking move. Archie, you've been following since SN4 blew up on... Yeah, dude, it blew up on the stand because the umbilicals leaked. You've known about Starship BFR since 2019. Dude, I got super into Falcon 9s and space shuttles and all this other stuff, man. I've been doing this for a hot minute. There's always time for MLV to do work. We can still keep going with it. That thing is really designed to do some hard work, guys. I really would like to put that thing to use eventually. Redbeard over in YouTube. I'm 25 and have been a space flight fan for literally as long as I can remember, even before childhood. You used to watch all the shuttle launches with your mom, including Columbia when you were only 3. Yeah, I watched Columbia. I actually didn't see Columbia live because I was in school. We heard about it later that afternoon. Harvard thought they discovered an asteroid. It was Elon's Roadster. That's awesome, dude. Again, and MLV mission mode. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. Here we go. Dude, what the heck? This thing is nuts. So, once again, we're waiting for that Starlink launch, and then we go. Sorry, I was just catching up on NSF chat. RC, you're from the Gemini generation. Good for you, man. Doing it for a hot minute. Wasn't Columbia on a weekend? I remember I was at my dad's that morning. It was on a Saturday. Yeah, February 1st. I must have... I distinctly remember talking about this in school, so that must have been the Monday after, Yarg. It must have been the Monday after. Yeah. Dude, I still... Like, I have a rule. I won't show shuttle disasters or Apollo 1 footage on stream. I won't do it. I've never done it. I can't do it. It pisses me off so hard, man. And it's so sad. Like, I have a rule about not showing death on stream. Like, oh, man. Both of the... If you go... And you know what sucks? If you go back and read the Accident Investigation Board and the Rogers Commission, which was the Challenger's kind of accident investigation board, you're going to get pretty angry because some of the mistakes that were made were pretty bad. They're pretty bad. Thank you for that. ... RC, that's cool, man. I've always thought it'd be pretty sick how sick it actually would have been to see the dawn of the space race and stuff. That's... Oh, man. Yeah, both Challenger and Columbia are so freaking avoidable. Like, and this isn't like one of those things where you're like, well, hindsight's 2020. No, there were signs. There were signs everywhere. With both shuttle disasters, there were signs everywhere. People just ignored them. The engineering is always going to try to tell you something. You know, you got to talk to your machine. Just like Memphis Reigns and Gone in 60 Seconds. It's just smooth sailing, Eleanor. Just you and me, you know. No, we have a rough past, but we're just going to glide. Oh. Then what was Apollo 1? Well, Nova, Apollo 1 is what happens when you don't listen to the people that fly inside of your spacecraft and disregard what they have to say. So, Gus Grissom's mission with Liberty Bell 7, his Mercury mission. Liberty Bell 7, after it splashed down, had a problem. The problem is that some of the saltwater intrusion shorted out an electrical system, and it caused the door to blow off. The door had an emergency ejection mechanism, and it caused the door to blow, right? It caused the door to blow while Gus Grissom was still strapped into a spacecraft, and all of a sudden, you're in a sinking spacecraft. In spacesuits that are not buoyant. Now, because of that, right, we lost Liberty Bell 7 for a long time. We got Gus Grissom managed to come out because he could undo his harness fast enough and jump out before the helicopter that was trying to lift the capsule with water inside of it overheated. And they let the line loose and then pulled him out. Because of this, right, the engineers insisted that if the capsule has an inward opening hatch, right, this problem could have been avoided. Right, the inward opening hatch. With the inward opening hatch, you don't need to quick eject the capsule. You don't need to quick eject the hatch. So the engineers wanted an inward opening hatch with the upcoming Apollo capsule at the time. Gemini, of course, had outward opening doors. The engineers insisted, inward opening hatch. This problem won't happen. You don't have to worry about ingress if you have an inward opening hatch. And Gus Grissom, Roger Chaffee, and Ed White all thought that was a completely bad idea. Don't do that. No, you're in a pressurized capsule that's designed to go into space, right? An inward opening hatch is not going, all that's going to be is if you need to get outside the capsule, it's going to be really difficult because of the pressure differential. They knew. There's photos of Ed White, Roger Chaffee, and Gus Grissom with the picture of the capsule praying, say, hey, don't get us killed because this capsule design is a little shady. And then they, during a plug-out test on January 27th, 1967, actually to the day, it is January 27th, right? They were doing a plug-out test, and the Block 1 Apollo spacecraft had a short, and they were using a pure O2 oxygen environment instead of nitrox like what they use now. That pure O2 basically made that short catch everything on fire instantly and basically turn the capsule into a pressure cooker. Gus, Roger, and Ed couldn't get out. They couldn't get out because the capsule pressurized, that pressure differential. It capsule pressurized. You have an inward opening hatch. How are you going to try to, you're going to try to open it against the pressure. Couldn't get out. Seriously. If you guys cast your mind back to DM2, May of 2020, when Bob and Doug go to fly, Bob and Doug go to fly the DM2 mission successfully, and it's awesome. SpaceX really put a lot of emphasis on how Bob and Doug had input on the spacecraft and how they treat them like they're their dads. They're your dads. We care about you. You care about us. That's the reason why. Because there was a time where the engineers and the astronauts didn't see eye to eye on things, and people got killed because of it. There you go. Dragon 2's hatch, might I add, also opens outward. Every single spacecraft post Apollo 1 has an outward opening hatch, not just our stuff. Soyuz, Shenlong, the Chinese craft, they all have outward opening hatches. Because they tried inward opening hatches once and it didn't work. It was a really, really stupid idea. Pure O2 environments in a pressurized capsule is a really bad idea, especially when the capsule was the wiring. The wiring, guys, you got to remember, the wire harnesses for these crafts were all made by hand. It was all made by hand. Wire harnesses are still made by hand, but we have very strict. NASA has very strict design standards on wire harnesses and how they need to be made, and et cetera, et cetera. It's because of Apollo 1 and because of the Apollo spacecraft. They had a lot of problems with that thing with electrical shorts. One of them being Apollo 1, but almost to the hour. Yeah. Yep. Oops, flammable tape. Yeah. Starliner, RC. Yeah. You know what's funny? Boeing actually figured out that the contractor was wrong with the flammable tape on Starliner. Starliner did a test a little while back, guys, and they figured out that the tape that they were using to hold down their wiring harness is super flammable, and the contractor said it wasn't. That's really good testing on Boeing's part, and I touted it as really good testing at the time, and everybody didn't want to hear it. But really smart, man. But yeah, it's always stupid mistakes like that, dude. Always stupid mistakes. You don't have to make stupid mistakes with spaceflight. We don't have to. SpaceX has shown that, you don't have to make stupid mistakes. You can do this right. You just got to be on your game. Because stupid mistakes and stupid decisions are how we lost the Apollo 1 astronauts, Columbia and Challenger. Stupid. Just frankly idiotic decisions. And and once again, I'm not saying this in the because we have the benefit of hindsight. I've learned enough about this to know that some of these decisions were just dumb. Like Challenger, for instance. Everybody knows that it was too cold, but it was also too freaking windy. Challenger launched on January 28th, 1986 with 2 launch constraint violations. 2! It was too windy and too cold. So, frame it like this. The shuttle isn't designed to launch in too windy conditions, nor is it designed to launch in too cold conditions. That's not what it's designed to do. Let's launch it in those conditions anyway and see what happens. Does that sound stupid to you? Because it is. That's really dumb. Yeah, that's tomorrow. Exactly. Yep. Yeah, Soyuz 1 as well. Yeah, exactly. Soyuz 1. Oh, boy. And then there's Soyuz 11 as well, which turns out that the capsule depressurizing mid-re-entry is a really bad thing for the crew. Are you familiar with the Newhouse wiring issue? The plastic-colored insulation, white, black, and green, etc. on the wire shrinks over time and could expose the wires and cause short circuits. No, friend, but I'm really happy I live in New England where there's a lot of old houses, and my house is one of them. Yes! Don't have to worry about that. In Tesla, Columbia, I will say too, Columbia is a 1 in a billion shot. I'd say you could probably launch another 100 space shuttles and this problem would never happen. Foam coming off and hitting the shuttle in the Achilles heel of the thermal protection system, the odds of that are slim to none. I've always told people with Columbia, so Columbia on ascent had a piece of foam come off and hit the wing, and it hit it right at a critical heating point on the shuttle's wing leading edge. If that piece of foam moves this much downward, it misses the wing completely. This much. That much. Maybe 40 millimeter. 40 mil. That's it. If that piece of foam goes down 40 millimeter, it misses the wing completely, and Columbia's in a museum right now. It's that much. That much is what didn't bring Columbia back. It's really annoying. But, Tessa, that's a 1 in a million shot. But NASA was very critical of NASA because they put the shuttle in that position to begin with. The external tank was not designed to be tanked and detanked 7 times. They shouldn't. That's really where you had a big problem with that. The Columbia in STS-107 scrubbed like 7 or 8 times, and they didn't really do any checkouts on the shuttle. The external tank's only designed to be fueled up once. It was not designed to go through this many load cycles, and they had bad foam cracking because of it. Interesting thing, guys, if you really want a little bit of a history lesson, you might want to pay attention. I've never shown this on stream before. SLS had the same problem. Because core stage 1 for Artemis 1 They did a bunch of wet dress rehearsals with it. They did a bunch of launches and scrub attempts with it. They tanked and detanked and tanked and detanked and tanked and detanked, and the foam came off. Ask me how I know. Oh, that's weird. Sorry, I got that. That came in the mail the other day. That may or may not have been some of the foam that came off. Hey, that's government property. No, nope. It was given to me by the government, so we good. Yeah, SLS had the same problem. They had to reapply the foam. They had to scrape it off and reapply it. Yeah. Never showed you guys that before. Should have not put insulation on the shuttle side forward of the wings. You don't really have a choice, Wisp. You got to manage boil off. President John Government gave it to EJ personally. Yeah, there was a picture and everything. Did you see the picture from the space probe heading to the moon? This is Blue Ghost. I haven't seen this picture, but I know that Blue Ghost is going to the moon, but also, oh. Surat, I need to see this with my own eyes. That's like my dying wish. I need to see that with my own eyes. I need to see Earth from space. I don't need, if one day we could maybe take like a vacation out to the moon or something for a week, like you go to Disney World, sure. That would be great. I don't need, like, that'd be awesome. But if we never get to that point, I need to see that. Hey, Urban, what's up? 6813. I can see my house. Dude, me too. I need to see that. I need to see that. That's that's so cool. Would a suborbital hop suffice? No. Pretty sure that's South America. I can't really tell what it is, Sewer Rat. It's hard to say it. You haven't been abducted yet? No. Why hasn't NASA been able to fix the cracking issue? They ended up getting it fixed on the shuttle, Trey. What happened with STS-107 is that the way they were applying the foam on the bipod strut, the shuttle's forward bipod strut is where they had a problem. It was a piece of that coming off. Like if you type in shuttle forward bipod mount, this is what you get. So this is at the very, all right. So a couple of things here. Okay. This is the bipod ramp. There's the strut that goes, the front of the shuttle would be right here. Like the forward landing gear on the shuttle is right here. So there's your bipod struts. You have the jackpad standoff closeouts right here. That's your LOX feed line. And then there's the plus Y bipod. So that would be the starboard side ramp and the port side ramp. Right here is the inner tank. Now, guys, SLS has this problem. SLS cracks foam right here because you have a pressurized hydrogen tank right here and then an unpressurized intertank right here. Right? There's a lot of cracking that happens here in general. Some of that cracked the bipod strut. And this piece, that chunk came off and hit Columbia. This is the one, this is the piece that came off. Their solution was just to not put the bipod ramps on there. Just don't. That was one of the solutions. Turns out you didn't really need it. They didn't coat it and they just kept the struts completely naked all the way. Now, why would you coat this in the first place then? Why would you do that? Well, the bipod struts are connected directly to the dome on the top of the hydrogen tank. It's connected directly to it. And the thing about it is you have to put some insulation on there, because if you don't, right, the cold is basically going to this isn't the right way to say this, but bear with me. The cold is going to get conducted through the bipod strut, and the bipod strut is going to convect the air. Basically, it's going to make the hydrogen boil off a lot faster. So their solution was to get rid of it and then just apply the foam in a slightly different way. But yeah, that's what happened. This part cracks on SLS as well. Right here, they had a ton of cracking on Artemis 1. Now, here's the thing on SLS. The question was, why didn't they change it? Well, why haven't they solved this with SLS? They don't need to solve it on SLS because there's a space shuttle. There's no space shuttle attached to it. That's the thing. You don't need to solve that problem. I want to trip around the moon and back. Don't need to land, just a free return. I'll settle for low Earth orbit, man. That's fine, Wisp. That would be good enough for me. Do SpaceX still have plans for a double drone ship landing for an upcoming Falcon Heavy launch? I'm not 100% sure. Would a common dome help this specific issue, ignoring the other issues a common dome would introduce? See, Rocky, my answer would be no because of the other issues a common dome would introduce. If we're talking about from a thermals point perspective, why would you say that? You could literally just explain it by saying heat and pointing it the opposite direction. Yeah, Limo, that's true. So Rocky, all right. The big problem here, I'll talk myself through this. The big problem is with the shuttles, like if we're talking about fully cryogenic propellants here with the external tank, a common bulkhead would probably make the boil-off problems worse because of the differential temperatures between liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Your liquid oxygen will actually heat your liquid hydrogen, and that's why the shuttle has an inner tank in the first place, and SLS too, for what it's worth. The other thing is that your primary structural carrier for your solid rocket motor mounts is going through the intertank. So they split the hydrogen and oxygen up into an inner tank design on the external tank, and also had your primary structural carrier to carry the load of that the SRBs put on the stack through the inner tank. So the inner tank is it has double purpose, right? A common dome, I don't think a common dome would help. Like, thermal issues aside, I don't think you'd be more structurally rigid in this regard. It's just a hard problem to solve. And that's the crux of of the shuttle's design, like in general. Yeah, you could have oxygen solidification, but most likely, Limo, I do believe I looked into this once. I think the oxygen would heat up your hydrogen, and your hydrogen would turn to gas before your hydrogen froze the liquid oxygen. Now, don't get me wrong, equal and opposite. Both of these things would happen, but I think your hydrogen would boil off before your oxygen freezes. I think. Falcon 9 launch in less than 10 minutes. Yes, that's correct, Archie. Yep. Falcon, we got Starlink 12.7 happening here quite soon, in a second. I didn't know about the extra structure for the SRB. Oh, Rocky, dude, you'll appreciate this, and I know we can nerd out about this. So, dude, your primary structural carrier for the SRBs goes through the inner tank. It's actually a big aluminum beam. It looks like an I-beam. I have a picture of it in my shuttle research folder. I'll show you. This is super cool. The SRBs don't so much as push the external tank and shuttle up. They pull it. They pull the hydrogen tank and the space shuttle upwards. It's wild how the load is transmitted through the stack. You'll appreciate this, dude. I'm telling you, man, Rockwell was cooking. They were cooking with this damn stack. It's really smart. I'm trying to find that picture. That's inside the MPS. That's not what we want. That's the OPF. This is EJ's private archive. There it is. See? Look at it. It's a big riveted aluminum beam between the bottom of the LOX tank and the top of the hydrogen tank. Now, keep in mind, the inside of the hydrogen tank is all coated with spray-on foam insulation as well. And the outside, this is the outside, or the inside of the inner tank right here. It's all coated. SpaceX is online. So, Rocky, the way the SRBs work, they're actually on latching pins. It's weird, dude. Like, you wouldn't even think about building a rocket this way. So, look. See right there in the SRB forward segment, this is above the boom boom segments. This is a forward segment in your nose cone. In the forward segment, you have a pin that kind of sticks out, or you have a mount that kind of sticks out, and there's a pin that goes through it. And they actually hang the external tank on the SRBs and then hang the orbiter on the ET. That's one of those struts that they're using. That is the exact strut that's inside of the ET. That's the same thing. But in this particular case, it's being used to hold the SRBs true because they needed to move, in this thing, they needed to move from high bay 1 to high bay 3. So you didn't want the SRBs doing this when you go to move them around, so they tied them together. See? And like I said, the aft SRB mounts are just there to keep the, I say that like, oh, they're just there to do this. The aft SRB mounts are just there to keep the SRBs true. Your point load for the SRB actually goes through the inner tank. So like I said, the shuttle is actually being pulled up by the SRBs, and so is the hydrogen tank. And the oxygen tank is being pushed up. Dude, it's a weird load path. But then again, the shuttle is a very weird launch vehicle. Crazy, huh? 5-minute warning. I see it. Neat. Looking at a diagram online, it seems like SLS does the exact same thing, but it does it with 5-segment boosters and a longer hydrogen tank. But yeah, the SLS, the boosters are basically pulling up the hydrogen tank and the MPS. This thing. It's basically, the SRBs are basically pulling that up. Crazy, right? Like, the shuttle was wild, man. They were cooking with that thing, I'm telling you. They were really cooking with that design. It's really not a bad design. Okay, Starlink time. Beef jerky time. You want some beef jerky? Predominant with the 1-bit Solaire with ads. Roll for ads. I rolled a 9.
Discovery,
I'll roll.
go at throttle up.
Oh, you rolled a 2. Get no ads, nerd. All right. Let's see what we got. This is Starlink 12-7. What booster is flying today? It looks like we're out at Complex 40, Space Launch Complex 40 here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The booster flying today is booster 1076. It's its 20th flight on a 53-day turnaround. Starlink 12-7 is moving 13 direct-to-cell and 8 Starlink V2 minis. So 21 total to low Earth orbit. It is SpaceX's 12th mission of 2025, and we are T-minus 3 minutes and 20 seconds away from launch here. They were doing something, Tessa. I don't know how you... Still. Somebody came up with the idea of mounting a 60-ton bird to the side of... like one of the most powerful rocket stacks we've ever made. And everybody's like, yep, that's a good idea. Let's do it. It's pretty crazy. And then they made it work.
Stage 1 lock float is complete.
Let's just I made my bed today. Done. 12th mission already, Dread Searle. I have not missed one Falcon 9 this year, and I don't plan on it, baby. Guys, just a quick side note. When I was down in Boca, I had the pleasure of running into Chris G, ex-NSF. He works for SpaceX now. And I said, Chris, did you know that the first time anybody ever mentioned how many times the fairings were reused was you? And he's like, what? I'm like, you were the first one to do it. And everybody else has done it since then on the commentated casts. I'm like, was that your idea? Because that seems like that would be your idea. And he's like, I did not do that on purpose, but I'll take credit for it. I'm like, cheers.
Stage 2 lock float is complete.
Okay, we should run into ground gas closeout here momentarily. And those fairings have been reused. Those fairings are cooked. Space Ghost, you haven't missed a single electro. Wait. Oh, God. Hey, Reese, what's going on? Zoran, the Liebherr 11,000 monster crane is made in Germany. Seeing there lift up the gigantic
Ground gas closeouts.
chopsticks. Greetings, excavator operator at Caterpillar. Hell yeah, Zoran. Liebherrs are cool, man. They're great cranes. Great cranes. Is it going to be a tower catch? Not this one, Sven. This is a Falcon 9. This thing's only going to land on a drone ship out in the water, out in the ocean. Drone ship that's on recovery duty today is a shortfall of Gravitas, which is SpaceX's third drone ship. Germany loves
startup.
Yep. Okay. Falcon 9's in startup. Germany loves big machines. Yeah, I know. It's awesome. I love big machines. Big machines make me happy. There you go, Steve Ree. Yeah, Sven. This is going to do a landing. It's still good. They're still going to try to get this back, and they're definitely going to get their fairings back. If you see those fairings, they've been reused. They're a little burnt because they've been reused.
T-minus 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Falcon 9 was in startup, initiated at 1 minute. Launch director says we are go.
15 seconds.
All right, let's start on Monday with a rocket
10,
launch, baby.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go Starlink.
Okay, we got a liftoff. Starlink Group 12-7, carrying 13 direct-to-cell and 8 V2 Starlink V2 Mini satellites into low Earth orbit. Cleared all towers.
Propulsion is nominal.
Vehicles pitching over, executing its roll program. Got a good call from the flight dynamics gentlemen at SpaceX that we got all 9 engines performing beautifully. This is Starlink 12-7, drummer. 12-7. Booster flying today is 1076 on its 20th reuse. Because,
Power and telemetry nominal.
you know, power and telemetry is nominal from the ECOM, or whatever SpaceX analogous to ECOM is, the electrical.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Supersonic. 60 seconds into the flight. Everything's looking good as far as I can tell.
Max Q.
We have maximum dynamic pressure. That's peak aerodynamic compression load being exerted on the booster. What SpaceX does to mitigate this problem, to not accordion your rocket, is to throttle the engines down. Now, as Falcon 9 ascends further into the upper atmosphere, where atmospheric density goes down, there's no air up there, they'll throttle the engines back up. Actually, they're probably doing
Chill has started.
probably doing it right around now. That was a call for MVAC chill, so what SpaceX is doing now is moving cold propellants into their second stage engine, which is actually like right here. It's right through this tank, well, not tank wall, through this interstage right here. They're priming their second stage engine for ignition, because what's about to happen is the 9 engines in the first stage are about to shut off. They're about to shut off, and the first stage is about to pop the second stage off the top and light the engine and go. You'll see that happening here in probably the next 15 seconds. That's a look up the second stage business end. Stand by for Miko.
Main engine cutoff.
There we go.
Stage separation confirmed.
Got a good separation. Ignition.
And back
Green
ignition.
flash. Looks like a good ignition, and we're getting good telemetry from that first stage. I mean, the limited telemetry that we get, but perfect. Look, you could see the trail that the rocket left on the way up. See it right there? The second I say see it, they switched cameras. You know, that's good. First stage now extending its grid fins.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Should get a call for fairing separation. Boop. There it goes. If you notice, there's 13 direct-to-cell Starlink satellites and then 8 regular satellites. You can actually see the difference if they show the payload again. Probably not, but those fairings will actually parachute. They'll re-enter and they'll parachute back down. And they will fish them out. SpaceX actually a little while ago waterproofed their fairings. So the fairings basically just seaplane themselves right into the water and then they fish them out with a big fishing net. SpaceX's 2 current recovery vessels are Bob and Doug. I'm not 100% sure which one is servicing this flight, but
Both vehicles are on a nominal trajectory.
I'm pretty sure someone will let me know. Yeah, goalie, she's all right. Why would they mix them versus switching them entirely to new Starlinks? Yarg, if I had to guess, it's so they have a stopgap. You know, ramp up production of direct to cell and then ramp down Starlink and then eventually make them all direct to cell. That's my guess. Are these rockets that land back on some pad in the ocean or something? So Cookie, the first stage is coasting right now. What it's going to do is it's targeting one of SpaceX's autonomous spaceport drone ships. The one called a Shortfall of Gravitas. That's the name for them. They're named from Ian Banks' Culture series. I'm trying to get you a picture of one of these bad boys. So SpaceX, this is just read the instructions, but that's basically what it looks like. Man, look at how clean it is. These things aren't clean anymore because so many rockets land on them. So what SpaceX did a little while back, they were figuring that, you know, the rocket, if you're moving a heavier payload, right? If you're moving a heavy payload, you know, a lot of that first stage fuel is needed to turn around and come back to the launch site and land. For the vast majority of missions that Falcon 9 needs to run, you need that fuel to push that second stage and payload up into space. So they came up with the idea of building, you know, floating landing pads out in the Atlantic. Now, this isn't necessarily a floating landing pad. They're called autonomous spaceport drone ships. And the drone ship is somewhere down in this cloud layer somewhere. We'll be able to see it in a second after the supersonic retropropulsion. My favorite part, when Falcon 9 does its entry burn. So those drone ships, believe it or not, so SpaceX was trying to come up with a way to solve this problem. You know, like, it'd be better if our booster landed out in the water. So what are we going to do?
Stage 1 entry burn.
We're just going to have a boat that's out there that they land the booster on? Well, yeah, pretty much. SpaceX took a bunch of barges that were built for servicing oil rigs, believe it or not. They took them, and then they mounted some oil rig thrusters on it. Some types of oil rigs float. There's the supersonic retropropulsion. Some type of oil rigs
Stage 1
float
entry burn
in the
shutdown.
water, and they actually have little thrusters on them to keep them centered over a well, right? They're called azimuth thrusters. They took the azimuth thrusters off, like they bought some secondhand,
Stage 2.
jury rigged them to a barge, and then gave the barge a propulsion system.
Both stages remain on a nominal trajectory.
And that's what SpaceX lands on. It's a converted barge with some oil rig thrusters attached to it. And that's what this thing is going to come down on and land. Like I said, it's under the cloud cover, so we can't really see it. Yeah, first stage, very windy down there. So yeah, those drone ships don't stay out there. SpaceX can tow them back and forth. And they tow them back into Port Canaveral in this
Stage 1
particular case.
transonic.
And then they have a crane pick up Falcon 9 off of it. And then, frankly, the drone ship just turns around and goes back out. Now, there are rules about an autonomous ship entering a port. So they have to have a tug pull them around. They're not online, so to speak, when they're towing boosters in, but it's online right now. All right. Drone ship should appear
Stage
under
1
the
landing
left
burn.
grid fin here. Cloud cover is very low out there in the Atlantic today. There it is. There's a shortfall of gravitas. 1076 has eyes on the landing site.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Here we go. Oh,
Stage 1 landing leg deployed.
oh, the wind's really blowing it around. And touchdown.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
They make that look so easy, dude. That is not that thing's 15 stories tall. But how? Like, I've watched tons of these things. It's still wild, dude. What a shot. Look at Earth, man. Oh, that's so cool. The wind was blowing it around, definitely. Did you see it move? But yeah, she made it.
MVAC shut down.
Stand by for the call for nominal orbit insertion. If they don't cut the cast before that happens. So we had a 27,108 staging velocity, a little faster than what we've seen for, equatorial Starship launches, or Starlink launches. 27,106 is a little bit high. What altitude was it at? Yeah, 137. That's pretty normal. Yeah, 1076 didn't seem to care about the winds. It was blowing it around. But, yeah, another great launch. Another one in the books for SpaceX. And 1076 has now made it to its 20th flight. That's 20 flights for a Falcon 9 first stage. How does the separation work? Opening the clamps before main engine cutoff alone won't do the thing, would it? No. Scott, so there's this problem with staging, okay? And Starship solves this problem by straight brute forcing it with hot staging. I can get more into that in a second. What Falcon 9 does is it has 4 pneumatic rods, okay? And the pneumatic rods, there's 3 on the outside of the inner stage, and then there's 1 in the center. So it's like this, pointing up, right? Now, these ones do your principal separation, the ones on the outside. Those are the ones that actually push the stage away. The one in the center is just there to make sure that you don't push the upper stage kind of crooked and have the nozzle of the second stage tip the inner stage, tip the first stage. You don't want to do that. That center pneumatic rod is just there to keep the stage kind of centered during separation. Now, why? Why not just separate it and go? Scott, you have to settle your propellants on your second stage. That's really, really important. Now down here, if you have a bottle of water, right? The water is just going to be down here. This is kind of how a rocket engine works. And I'm going to get into some basic physics here. So you have a liquid fuel rocket engine. Your rocket engine needs liquids to go. The pickups for most rocket engines is at the bottom of the tank. Gravity is pushing your liquid down here. So the liquid needs to be near the pickup. If it's not, your liquid fuel rocket engine does not ingest liquid. And that's really bad for it. Yeah, that's bad. So how do you do that? How do you do that with a stage that stages, right? How does that work? Those pneumatic rods push on that stage, and them pushing it equal and opposite reactions. Like I said, basic physics. It settles the propellants down at the bottom of the tank so they can fire the engine. Yeah, that's how that works. Now, Starship don't give a frick. Starship don't give a frick. It fires its engines while the first stage engines are still on for that same problem, to keep the propellant settled so it can just keep going. That's not the first rocket to do it, though. Hot staging has been a thing since the earliest parts of the space program. In fact, hot staging dates back to 1957. Sputnik launched on a modified R-7 Semyorka, which definitely uses hot staging. Well, maybe not the Semyorka exactly, but the variants of the Semyorka that came, Vostok, Voshgod, and then Soyuz, those all use hot staging. The Russians have been using hot staging for like 60 years. Because it works. It's a really simple way of keeping your propellant settled, Scott, because you have to settle your propellants. You have to. If you don't, you go to fire the rocket engine and it most likely will explode. It'll do an SN11 if you don't feed it right. Hey, WD-40, we got a drone raid. What's going on, man? The heady days of Sputnik and Yuri Gagarin, and as we sail on to Havana, where the shores are warm and the company is good.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
But if the tanks are full, why would this be a problem? The tank never gets 100% full, Violent. There's a reason for this. Boil off. It'll never get 100% full. Even if you fill the tank up completely to 100% on your second stage, by the time you get to staging, some gas will have accrued inside of that tank because your liquid oxygen is boiling. Guys, anytime you have fully cryogenic propellants, liquid hydrogen, liquid methane, liquefied natural gas, liquid oxygen, in order for these things that hydrogen, methane, LNG, natural gas, oxygen, in order for these things that are usually found as gases down here on the surface, for them to be liquids, they have to be extremely cold. And when they're extremely cold, they boil. And when they're extremely cold at pressure, it screws with the boiling point and they start boiling. So you're going to have gas in there whether you like it or not. Red October, that's right, yes. I thought I heard singing, sir. 58 Racer, what's going on, man? 8-month resub, thank you. How does it feel to live in a time where rocket launches have become so frequent as to be common, and that so many Falcons have returned successfully that a return landing is expected instead of hoped? It's amazing, dude. It's amazing. I love it. This is a great timeline. Pretty good. Pretty good, dude. How could Starship slow down to get to the moon? So how could Starship slow down to get to the moon or Mars orbit? Are they going to relight the engines? Well, Trappo, with how Starship lands, you have to relight the engines, at least at the very last second. You can, for either one, you have to rely on some type of perturbing force if you're not using the engine. So on Mars, Mars has a little bit of an atmosphere. It's not a lot. I would not recommend going to Mars and taking your helmet off and trying to breathe. You'll die instantly. I've seen Total Recall. It doesn't work. No, Mars has a little bit of an atmosphere. Not enough for us to breathe. But hey, an atmosphere is an atmosphere. It's there. You could aero brake Mars. Basically run into the atmosphere, which is basically what we do, and use that to slow yourself down to capture, right? And then obviously use your rocket engines to land in Starship's case. Now on the moon, there's not as much perturbing force. You have what's called gravitational perturbations, which is the moon's gravity. You can use that to help you slow down a little bit, but using that to slow down would be about as useful as slowing down a car with wind. Not really good. It's better to use the brakes. Now, what's the brakes with rocket engines? Well, with spacecraft, right? With spacecraft, you have your engines. The problem is the engines are facing that way. But that problem is easily solved because it's very easy to just turn your ship around. How do you hit the brakes on a spacecraft? Turn the vehicle around and burn in the direction that you're going. It's called a retrograde burn. You need to capture the moon with a retrograde burn. So they got to use the engines. You can't really use the atmosphere on the moon to slow down. Why? There is none. Yeah, that doesn't have that. So, generally you want to use what's there, right? Use what you have at your disposal. And I know technically the moon has a trace atmosphere because technically the atmosphere doesn't really have a hard stop. And some of the moon's gravity has pulled in some of Earth's atmosphere. Yeah, space works like that. It's very weird. But it's not enough to slow down a ship. You got to fire your engines to do it. Not just for like the very landing, for landing, but you have to fire your engines to capture, to get into orbit around the moon. And then you got to fire your engines again to slow down enough so you don't crash into the surface. We saw them do that in the 60s and the 70s. It was pretty cool. It's a pretty good time. Can you litho brake the moon, though? I would not do that either, Tessa. You could get away with it on Mars after using the atmosphere to slow down, but you're not getting away with it on the moon. What's the fully expendable Falcon 9 going to be launching? SpainSat, I believe, is the mission. This is SpainSat NG-1. It's Hisdesat's largest project since its foundation. Its technical complexity and strategic relevance will position the company as an international benchmark in satellite communications. This is a 6,100 kilogram satellite going to GEO. 6,100 to GEO. That's why they're expending a Falcon 9. 6,100 to GEO on a Falcon 9 launch? Okay. If you're wondering why it looked like my brain just divided by 0, 6,100 to GTO on a Falcon 9. Guys, you go back 5 years, this is a Falcon Heavy mission. Easily a Falcon Heavy mission. We're to the point where basically an expendable Falcon 9 right now, like a Block 5 Falcon 9 right now, can do what like a Block 1 Falcon Heavy was supposed to do 5 years ago. Is that crazy? I'm talking about how they're going to slow down the gravity to catch the Starship, how to relight with no gravity. Oh, Trapo, you're talking about Ullage. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I misunderstood. Hopefully you really learned something from that explanation. So how do you do it when you're up in space? How do you do it to relight your engines, etc., etc.? You use what's called tank ullage. So Starship, this is a Block 1 Starship model, but hey, it still works. Starship, and this is most rockets, Falcon 9 second stage does the same thing. They have little thrusters on the back, little tiny thrusters. Falcon 9 uses compressed nitrogen thrusters that are derived from the nitrogen thrusters on the first stage, the one that it uses to steer to basically make it so it can land, right? Falcon 9 second stage has thruster blocks on the back. They're little tiny thrusters that shoot out compressed air, and that does accelerate the vehicle enough to settle your propellants. You don't need a lot, just a little bit, just enough to get your propellants to settle. Because when you're up in microgravity, right, it basically looks like it's raining, but it's raining and not going anywhere. It's just drops of liquid oxygen everywhere, right? Now, that's how Falcon 9 does it with a nitrogen thruster block. Starship is very ingenious in this regard. It uses its own tank ullage for reaction control, which is actually super smart, right? Remember I told you how there's always going to be gas inside of the fuel tank. I don't know if you were here during that part, Trapo, but basically rockets have something called tank ullage, okay? Tank ullage is basically the gas that takes up the space where the propellants are as you drain propellants. So as you drain propellants on a rocket engine, right, or a rocket stage or whatever, you drain propellants, right? You got to fill that with something or else the tank will implode. You have to have a very low delta P for your tanks during flight, change in pressure. You don't want to change in pressure because rocket engine turbopumps rely on constant, what's called head pressure to work correctly, okay? You need to be feeding at a constant rate and a constant pressure. If not, your turbopumps run the risk of ingesting gas, which would be a very bad idea. That usually means something blows up. So there's residual gases inside of rockets called ullage gases. Now, how those ullage gases get there is there's a couple of different ways. I know I'm holding a Starship model, but on Falcon 9, there's cryogenic gaseous helium tanks inside of the stage, and those vent and they fill it with helium as the propellants drain out. Now, Falcon 9 uses those nitrogen thrusters that I was telling you about, right? So Falcon 9 uses nitrogen to push it forward and helium to fill the void. Starship uses ullage gases to push itself forward. It combined those functions into one. Now, does Starship have a helium tank in it? No, it does not. Raptor engines are capable of doing something called autogenous pressurization. Now, if you look at a Starship, right, it has some like lines going up right here. On the real ones, there are pressure lines that go up here. They're pneumatic lines. The Raptor engines actually have what's called a pilot or somebody or an A&P, somebody that works on planes would call these bleed lines. But in rocketry, they're called autogenous pressurization lines. There's a gaseous methane and a gaseous oxygen tap off from the Raptors, and those lines are connected. The engines that bleed air or tap off line is connected to these pneumatic lines that go up into the tanks. So when the Raptor engines fire, they're actually pressurizing the tanks. They're pressurizing the tanks while being fed fuel, right? Starship uses that residual pressure as its RCS so they can do stage 1. So they could, I was about to say stage 1 relights. So they can relight those Raptor engines. They have basically a pipe that goes from the tanks right? Back down, or they could use the AP lines, and they have some backward-facing thrusters here to be able to fire it to settle the line so Starship can relight its engines on orbit. That's how ullage gases and ullage pressures are very important to understand how rockets fly. That's super, 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 super important. If you don't get that right, it blows up. Yeah, it explodes. Yeah, it'll pop. Some of the first stages back in the day, like in the early parts of the space program, to demonstrate on-orbit relight capability, Centaur, this Atlas Centaur in the early 60s. But the big one, the one that's really widely known, is the ability to relight the S4B for the Saturn V. That's how that did it. The Saturn V actually did a little bit of a different thing. The Saturn V had small separator motors pointing backwards. There's SRBs attached to the side, and they fired during separation to settle the propellants, and then they fired again a little bit later for the translunar injection burn. So yeah, basically you just have to have a small thruster or a small outgassing event or an SRB attached to the side to get your propellants to be settled. How Starship is going to do it, it's going to vent its tanks backwards to give it some acceleration. You don't need to worry about venting it too much. Like I said, there is a delta P when it comes to ullage when it comes to ullage lines, but you don't want to change the pressure to the head pressure to your engines too much. You don't want to change it too much, but you can change it. But you want to keep your change in pressure throughout the flight of your vehicle. You want to keep it really low, because if it goes too low, you can get improper feed. You'll get improper head pressure and feed for your turbine, for your turbo pump impellers, basically your fuel pumps for the rocket engine. You don't feed the fuel pump right, you're inviting gas to get inside of your LOX turbo pump, or your liquid fuel turbo pump, or your liquid fuel, your liquid oxidizer turbo pump. And if you get cavitation in there, or you get air in there, you get SN11. You get SN11. That's what happens. Or you get SN8 or SN9. They all had problems with ingestion of something that wasn't liquid methane and liquid oxygen. So it's collecting its own exhaust to pressurize itself, kind of like a gun gas recoil. Yeah, Daggett. Yeah, Daggett. That's a good way to say it. A gas. What's the name of it? I'm thinking delayed roller bearing, but delayed roller bearing is an MP5 or a G3. It's a gas operated like an AK or an M1 Garand or an M16. Similar idea. Yeah. You take some of it, tap off to get it to do something else. Now, on a firearm, right, like on an AR style, like an M16, there's a gas line that goes, from your forward sight. It goes up through a gas block, through a pipe, and that pipe pushes the bolt back and forth, right? It's a cammed bolt, right? So when it gets pushed back and forth, it unlocks the breech out of battery, right? Yes, I know guns. I'm interested in the mechanical parts of those, just like any other piece of mechanics. But yeah, it's a very similar idea to that. But you're using that to repress your tanks. You're not using it to move a bolt around. Rockets don't have bolts, last time I checked. They have a bunch of actual, like, bolts, but not like a cammed rotating bolt. So how does Starship relight to start the flip maneuver? Now, that right there is a good question. That's the exact reason why SpaceX did the belly flops first. Because how the heck do you relight when your ship is falling this way? Where are your propellants settling when the ship's falling sideways? They're settling at the bottom of the tanks. That's a hard problem to solve. But they did it. They figured it out. They got some trickery up their sleeve. But that's the reason why they did, SN8, SN9, SN10, SN11, even though that you really probably didn't get some good data, all the way up to SN15 to make sure that they could get the feeds right. Because when this thing comes back down and lands, right, you're flipping this whole dang thing over and then coming down. That sloshes your propellants like crazy. But SpaceX figured out mitigations for it. There are ways to do it. Header tanks. That's the way to get that done. A smaller tank inside of your main tank. And that smaller tank holds the propellants in a smaller area so it doesn't block so you don't get gas ingestion on your pickups. Yeah, that's one of the ways they did it. There's SpaceX has a lot of time. Let's just say that SpaceX has a lot of time into getting their fuel feed mechanisms right. Because Starship does some pretty unorthodox things, right? They can use header tanks, Bob. Yep. They did it using hydrocoptic Marsal vanes fitted to ambificient lunar wane shafts to prevent side fumbling of propellants. Yes, precisely. Now, coincidentally, Super Heavy does that. Super Heavy does the exact same thing. You know, SpaceX has 33 engines firing, and then they go from 33 engines firing to 3 engines firing, staging, right? Turn around on 3 engines, and then relight 10 to get 13 for the boost back. Super Heavy needs header tanks. It actually has a Falcon 9 sized header tank inside of it, believe it or not. Yeah, right at the pickups, right at the bottom of the tanks. There's a Falcon 9 second stage sized header tank inside of Super Heavy. What is a header tank? It is a fuel tank inside of a fuel tank. So, all right. Let me show you. So this is a side profile of Starship, right? Or we'll say Super Heavy, right? You have all your rocket engines down here. Please excuse the crudity of this drawing. I didn't have time to draw it to scale or to paint it, right? And then you have the bottom of your LOX tank, right? The pickup for that is right here. It's right here. And once again, you get gas. If you get gas in that pickup, you got a bad day. So what SpaceX does is they put another fuel tank right here. They put another fuel tank right here, and then there's valves right here. So if the booster is rotating, get rotated, nerd, and all your propellant goes to one side, the propellant stays. It basically keeps the pickup covered when it sloshes around, right? That's how Super Heavy can turn and fire its engines, because it's got a header tank inside of it. It's a fuel tank inside of a fuel tank. That was the solution to that problem. I'm telling you, it's really smart. That's a really, really simple way of solving a very complicated problem. Not Falcon 9, Starship does the same thing. Now, Starship has header tanks up at the front, too, on top of this. They have header tanks in back and in front. The header tanks up in front that are in the nose cone, there's 2 fuel tanks in there, and it looks like 2 spherical objects next to each other. It looks like that, one for methane and one for oxygen, right? At least I think there's 2. They may have changed it. It looks like a set of eyes. Yeah. Fuel is stored in the balls. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And then there's 2 pipes that go back. Those header tanks up at the front here, up here, there's 2 of them. There's 1 and 2. They're right next to each other. Right here and right here. Those tanks are used for fuel. They're used for balancing the fuel when when Starship is coming back down. It's used to keep your center of gravity balanced on top of the control surfaces. Stay. Booster 15 is a bit modified, by the way. It's not like the previous boosters. Oh. Yeah, Rage. Balls! Yes! Ding, ding, ding. You are right. Now try Echo. Sorry. They are not in a sack. No. They're in a ship. Ish. Here, let's go see how they're coming along with the chopsticks. Almost got that into position. Why not use the same principle as the old locomotive, having tubes in the water tanks? What problem is that solving, Boom Boom? I mean, they kind of do, for what it's worth. Oftentimes your fuel lines on block 2, on the block 2 Starship, your methane lines are going through your liquid oxygen tank and through that header tank. Actually, SpaceX switched it around. they have their feed lines are actually spread. They go around the header tank. That's what those vacuum insulated lines that they were talking about, that's what those do. It's not like one tube that goes down to the engine section. It's multiple, which is borrowing a design philosophy from the Saturn V, believe it or not. Yeah, here. So if we look at this just kind of line picture of a Saturn V first stage, here we go. See the lines? Now the Saturn V did this for, I'm not sure what the exact reason was, but there are 5 liquid oxygen lines that go through the RP1 tank. And each one of them goes to each F1. Starship Block 2 does that. It does that. See how the lines are spreading out? It's not like one tube that goes down through. See what I'm talking about? They switched to this design, which once again, Saturn V is the only other vehicle I know that does this. They must have looked at this and said, oh, we should do that. Now, I'm not 100% sure why they did this way. Probably for better propellant feeding for landing, if I had to guess. But theirs is also going around a header tank in the LOX tank as well. Booster 15's header tank. Oh. Yeah, see here, check it out. This is, thank you, Baron. This is coming from, this is Lab Padre footage. See? Whoa, what is that thing? There's your header tank. Like I said, that header tank for Super Heavy is the size of a Falcon 9 second stage. Like, the scale is pretty ridiculous here. See what I'm talking about? It's as big as a damn Falcon 9 second stage. Look at the dude walking around. And this is where the chines are going to be on Booster 15. See those lines right there? Autogenous pressurization lines. See the pneumatic line? And then see the mounts for the pneumatic line? Those are your AP lines. Pretty cool, huh? It moves the fuel tank from the big tank to the small tank. Yeah, exactly. It's like Jaeger bombs, but with rockets. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no. I had to think about it, but it makes sense. Yeah, maybe redundancies, Everest. Who knows? Violet, what was your last? Question on the fuel problem. Why have the gas or small thrusters? Would it not be easier to have a metal plate and some hydraulics to push the fuel to the back? Also, this prevents sloshing. Hydraulics, yeah, I mean, Violet, you could. You're talking about a hydraulic piston that changes the volume of the fuel inside of the tank. Well, now you're compressing your liquid that wants to have gas in it because it's boiling. Now you're compressing that. What happens when you compress a gas? Also, hydraulics are a lot heavier than gases last time I checked, right? It's a lot more mass. That's why. There are the ways to do this. The best way that we can do in the application of spacecraft is just keep the damn propellants cold. Keep them out of the sun. That usually helps. And having your header tank inside, like if this tank is full and your main tanks, right, are empty, this is a vacuum insulated header tank. That's why they put this in Starship as well, because the tank being inside of the tank keeps you out of sunlight and you're vacuum insulated. So there's no way for heat to get to it to boil off your propellants. That's a good question though, buddy. Yeah. It looks like a still. It does look like a still, especially because it's stainless. It really looks like a brewery up in here. And that's also the reason, if people are wondering, when Super Heavy comes down and lands, you see the fire coming out of the side? See it over there? Too? See that fire? There's a blow-off valve, basically, in your autogenous pressurization lines. When the tanks reach the right pressure, because all the engines are firing, so all of them are tapping off gas and putting gas into your liquid methane and liquid oxygen tanks. When those tanks hit the right pressure, right, it blows out the rest of the gas, which is why you see flames shooting out the side. because you're blowing out liquid methane and liquid oxygen, and they're mixing and they're finding the heat from the rocket engine and exploding. That's why this thing catches on fire. If you look at that footage over there too, you see when Super Heavy comes in, that's the Flight 5 catch. It's shooting out flames out the side. Now, SpaceX worked on mitigating this problem with a CO2 suppressor. Flight 7 did not have nearly as much. But after Flight 7 landed, you did see Booster 14 fart a little bit because they're trying to manage the propellant in the they're trying to manage those propellants in the tanks. You don't remember, your residual propellants are still going to boil, and you can overpressurize your tanks even after the booster has landed. You don't want to do that, right? You don't want to lose your 22-story building that you just caught, and that's why it farts out. It farts out more methane, quite literally farts, right? After landing, because the propellants are boiling off, and you don't want to overpress the tanks. Not trying to ponder about Raptor again, but they can't do orbital refueling with Raptor V2, since after main engine cutoff, the main tanks are essentially unusable due to the amount of water contamination caused by the lack of heat exchanger. Raptor 3 will solve this problem. You know what? Baron Ryan said something about those stupid engines leaking today. No one can give me a damn source about this, but everybody's saying it happens. And I'm like, I don't know, bananas. Like, I need a source to say that this is a thing, damn it, you know? COPVs make the rocket not go boom. Yeah, that's right. Predominant with the bits. He said that when we were doing the chopstick lift this morning, and I'm like, what? Where are you all getting this from? All right, I need a concrete source if I'm going to say this, but also everybody's saying it, so it's probably happening, but also what the actual frick, you know? What temperatures do the propellants need to be at? Oh, cold. Liquid oxygen is minus 180 C, and methane is even colder than that. I'm not late on the updates. I just can't tell you that something is happening because somebody at SpaceX told me that was happening. Dang it. Elon has been hinting at it, and you could see it clearly in the flights. Yep. That's right, Digital. Yeah, you ain't kidding, man. You have access to L2. Go to the Raptor thread. Yeah, but I can't share L2 information. I'm pretty sure Chris B would come and kick me in the junk if that's going to happen. He'll be like, oh, mate, you can't be sharing this. You can't be sharing this information, EJ. You know? How's that for a Chris B impression? He's going to come, he'll come and kick you right in the header tanks. that was good. That was good, man. Remo would not be happy, House, right? Can nozzles from one Raptor be swapped onto another Raptor? Parts of it, Loco, yeah. Interchangeable parts are huge, yeah. The Raptors, yeah, yes. But, so the combustion chamber, the throat, and the first part of the nozzle is one subassembly. That is your primary structural carrier for the engine, and it's also your primary pressure vessel for the engine as well. Yeah, that doesn't come apart. If that's coming apart, something is very wrong. But every other part, sure, I don't see why not. In fact, I'm pretty damn sure SpaceX has done that. Like, if we always talk about, we saw the Raptor Pi, right? Raptor 314, right? It was definitely on Booster 12 when it flew on Flight 5, and it was definitely on Booster 14 when it flew on Flight 7, right? My guess, so why didn't we see a reused booster on Flight 6 or a reused engine on Flight 6? My guess is that they didn't fully reuse an engine on Flight 6. They reused parts first, right? That makes perfect sense. We didn't confirm like a fully reused engine until Flight 7. So that tells me that they took the good parts of engines off of Flight 5 and then pieced together a rocket engine of reused Raptor parts and put that on Flight 6. That's what that tells me. Oh, this is Ring Watchers. What's Ring Watchers up to, Baron? There you go. Ah, Ring Watchers has a great render of what the header tanks look like. See, how am I supposed to describe this with? How am I supposed to describe that without the internet doing internet things? How is that? What am I supposed to do with that? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, the fuel is stored in the balls. Like I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, look at this. How am I supposed to tell people what that does and be educational about it? It's difficult, man. They're just balls. Balls. Oh, and one's blue. Oh, no. Oh, dear. But see, okay, quick side note. See how they have split lines? See what I'm talking about? They split the methane lines. See that? And then, I mean, dude, guys, this is crazy. This is ridiculous for rocket plumbing. Like, rocket plumbing is usually a lot more simple. You have a pipe that goes from your liquid fuel tank to your engines, and then a pipe that goes from your liquid oxygen tank to your engines, and that's it. Like, this is pretty complicated for a spacecraft. But then again, what Starship is supposed to do is not easy, is it? Side note, Booster 14 will lose all its engines and go into the crusher at Massey's to see if the heat blasting it sustained from hot staging caused any steel strength properties to change. I mean, if anything, it tempered it. It probably made it stronger. The deformed Raptors will need a nozzle change as they did for 314 when it was sent back to McGregor. Yep. Why split the feed? Why not just use a larger pipe for more throughput? Now, Badger, that I'm not 100% sure. I don't know why they changed it. I'm not 100% sure. My guess would be because they changed the pickups. They changed the pickups in the methane tank. That's my guess, but I actually don't know the answer to this. I don't know why you would do this over what they had. I know it has something to do with fuel flow, and that's about it. Are those stanchions holding up the bottom and the top bulkheads? No. There would be rings. There would be rings here. The rings with stringers inside of them are what holds this whole thing up. Guys, you're looking at basically an X-ray view. An X-ray view of this. So the back piece is over here, right? Your bulkhead is here, and then your header tanks are up here at the nose cone. That's why the header tanks look like that, because they're built into the nose of Starship. See, like they're right up there. They're just way up in there. I'm going to put this on the table or else I'll kick it over. Stay. It will make them be able to burn the Raptor vacuums for longer. The fuel collector for V1 Starships mandated a Raptor vacuum shutdown 40 seconds before SECO, if you remember. So it's a flow dynamics issue. Yeah, Baron. I mean, see, here's this thing. Like, here's the thing. Guys, rockets are simultaneously one of the simplest things to understand, but also one of the most complicated. Okay? So, we'll talk about, you know, those lines. Like, Baron, you said it right there. Like I said, it has to do with flow dynamics. They wouldn't change the fuel lines, your fuel feeding lines, unless they had a fuel feeding line problem. Right? Oh, your fuel line doesn't feed correctly. Okay. Put a new fuel line. Change the design. Now, with SpaceX, that's the kind of stuff you see happen. But with other rockets where that don't use rapid iteration like SpaceX does, changing around your fuel feeding mechanism could delay your program by years. So do you try to fix it or do you actually redesign? Now, SpaceX, they don't care. So just change it. And you know what? Vacuum seal it too. Screw it. SpaceX it's very intuitive what they do, but it's also not, but it also is. Why would we change our methane feed lines? Well, our methane line wasn't feeding right. It wasn't feeding how we want to do what we want, so we're going to change it. Okay, straightforward enough. But describing said flow dynamics of a Mark 1 line, or a Block 1 Starship line over a Block 2 Starship line, that's where this gets complicated. But the gist of it is that they didn't like how the fuel was feeding into the engines. Simple. But also not. In rocketry, what's that, Bizarro? In rocketry, most of the weight is just the fuel. Regardless of the details, I want a Star Trek-style future. Yeah, that you're getting into what's called mass fraction. Yeah, like 98% of a rocket. Actually, 98% mass fraction is pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Yeah, 98% mass fraction. Like more than that is fuel. Most of it is fuel. To describe how delta V works, like delta V stands for change in velocity. Rocket's range is not measured in distance, it's measured in speed, or how much you can change your speed, change in velocity. Higher delta V means you can go further, right? Rocket's distance is measured in acceleration, which is actually super cool when you think about it. But dude, even like 98% mass fraction as opposed to 99% mass fraction, it's going to get you a lot further. But how I always explain that in plain English is the more rocket, or the more fuel you have on your rocket and less rocket you have on your rocket means you're going to go further. You also have to take into account gravitational constant and what's called your specific impulse of your engines. Specific impulse of engines is a measurement that's done in seconds. It's done in burn time seconds, and it's measured in kind of a non-dimensional medium, which, if you don't know like physics and rockets and stuff, makes no sense. Long story short, the higher the number, the higher the specific impulse, the more efficient the rocket engine is. A plain English way of describing specific impulse is that the rocket engine can shoot gases out a lot faster. If you could shoot gases out faster, you're probably more efficient. Yeah, but you also got to do it efficiently. That's getting into total impulse and exhaust velocity and mass flow rate and all this other fun technical jargon. But yeah, it could be boiled down to this. The less rocket you have on your rocket and the more fuel you have on your rocket, the further your rocket's going to go. But also, I want to live in a world where we have stuff like Star Trek as well. We need our Zephyrim Cochrane moment. And that moment might be coming. Nuclear thermal rockets could get us there. That'll definitely be good. A Vasimir drive would be pretty nice too. That's basically a fusion reactor with one side of it open and shooting out the back. Yeah, fusion reactors create plasma. Yeah, a tokamak or a stellarator, they create fields of plasma. And what a Vasimir engine is a fusion reactor that's in the shape of a rocket engine, so it shoots plasma out the back, which that could happen. That's doable. We've proven that can work. It's just we don't know how to do it. Not yet, at least. That could happen. Magnetic containment fusion plasma engine. We get that. Oh, we got Star Wars up in here. And I mean, I want that. That could happen. It's possible. I would really like that. That would be nice. Like in The Expanse, an Epstein drive is kind of like that. Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of similar. Yep. I mean, if companies like SpaceX keep going, I could see The Expanse kind of future within 60 to 100 years. I hope so. Something that constantly gets me, Vert, is that I'm never going to be satisfied with the state of the space program. The reason why is because I was traumatized. I was traumatized when the space shuttle got thrown out and when they canceled Constellation and we wound up with nothing. It showed me how delicate the space program and how delicate this all is. This can all just go. It could just go. Like, it could just be gone in a nutshell. Gone in a nutshell. You know what I'm trying to say. Like, it could all just go away. That's why I'm a SpaceX fanboy. I'm a Blue Origin fanboy. I love SLS. I love all these other rockets because I don't think we're in a position to be able to argue about which rocket is cheaper and which rocket is more effective and which rocket is less effective. Dude, because I'm traumatized by, I grew up in an era where NASA, it wasn't cool to be a rocket scientist. It was not. The shuttle was boring by it, not for me, but Like, that's the era I grew up in. And then we had nothing, right? We had nothing. We had nothing for 10 years or 9 years, from 2011 to 2020. Nothing. No human spaceflight from U.S. soil. Right? I'm traumatized by this stuff. I do not want a future where we do not have rockets, and all of this could go away very quickly. Like, I do not want that to happen. So, like, yeah, believe me, dude, I got you. Like, everybody, if you talk to everybody in the space program in 1970, they say we're getting to Mars by 1980. Oops. All this can go away real quick. So like we say, like, oh, I think in 60 to 100 years, it could be fine. Yeah, but that's going to mean that I'm going to need to do a lot of talking between now and then. And I hope everybody else that works on rockets, also does a lot more talking to keep this going, because it's a constant battle, to advocate for space flight, because the last time we rested on our laurels, right, about this during the Apollo program. Oh, they wouldn't get rid of the Saturn V. They wouldn't get rid of the Saturn V. Next thing you know, we don't have a Saturn V. Oh, they won't get rid of the space shuttle with no replacement. They won't get rid of the space shuttle with no replacement. They won't get rid of Constellation. It was supposed to replace the shuttle. Oh, they won't get rid of that. Oh, they won't get rid of that. No, that'll be fine. It scares me. I don't like it. No, sir. I don't like it. Now that Elon has mastered 33 engine rockets, does that mean that aerospike engines are more likely to be tested in the near future? I don't think the number of engines, Violent, have much to do with it, but Stoke is working on something similar to that. And then they blame it on budget cuts. Obsidian, the reason Constellation was canceled was underperformance. The reason why they underperformed? They didn't give them any money. 2008, 2009, Constellation was underfunded. It got very behind schedule. And then they cited underperformance as the reason for getting rid of it. Will you get in the transporter, or will you be like Dr. McCoy? Oh, I don't know, man. Somebody else can get in the transporter first, you know what I mean? Yeah, X-Wing, that's right. Okay, I already got that. Having the crossfeed close to the engines, the pressure losses are larger because they must be computed with all the mass flow rate. If the crossfeed is close to the tanks, the pressure losses are the same. Lava, you're talking about in regards to this, right? This picture from Ring Watchers? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there you go. That makes perfect sense. If NASA had the same budget as the U.S. military, we'd already be Star Trek tier. Let's leave it at that. Yeah, Bizarro, you could say that. I think it's not the money. The money's there. NASA's budget is $23 billion. $23 billion is enough to do Star Trek tier stuff. The reality of the situation is that for Uncle Sam, spaceflight is not expensive. I mean, we're getting to the point where it's not expensive for Elon or Jeff either, but I digress. I don't think it's the funding. I think the funding is there. I think the funding's always been there. And don't get me wrong, an expanded NASA budget, I'm not gonna say I don't want that, right? But also at the same time, it's not just money. The money is there right now. It's the goal. You need a goal. NASA needs something to do. You got to get, if you want Star Trek stuff, you got to give them a goal to make Star Trek stuff. No one has given them a goal to make Star Trek stuff, let alone give them the money to do Star Trek stuff, right? I want this. We should have had this a long time ago. I agree with you. They need a goal. You need a goal. If you don't have a goal, you're not going to make Star Trek stuff. If you don't have a goal for Star Trek stuff, you're not going to have it. Right? The money's there, man. The money's there. NASA's $23 billion. You tell me you can't make Star Trek stuff for $23 billion? Does anybody have any idea how much money that actually is? We could make Star Trek stuff for $23 billion. Of course we could. We need a goal. We need a plan. That's what I'm hoping we get with this new administration. But, who knows? Who knows? You need a goal. NASA needs a goal. They need a plan. That's it. They don't have really much of a plan. I know people are going to say, what about the Artemis program? What's Artemis's goal? What is the near-term goal of Artemis? Can you even give me a solid date for when this next mission is going to happen? No, because there's no, the goal is like, oh, we'll go back to the moon to maybe learn how to go to Mars. Okay, sure. 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 That's good enough, David. Sure, that's fine. I don't really think that humans on Mars in the next 4 years is in the realm of possibility, but everybody, dude, you go back to the mid-1960s, everybody said going to the moon by the end of the decade was a crazy freaking idea and we're never going to do it. And then we did it. This is what I mean about goals. You got to have a goal, and the goal has to be bold. The goal has to be something people want to try. People want to do it. You think people go to work at SpaceX because of the pay? I mean, the pay is pretty good from what I understand. It's pretty decent. People go there because they like the goals. They want to be part of the situation. They want to be part of the entity that helped make us multiplanetary. That back in the day is why people wanted to work for NASA. I mean, NASA still does it, but if you gave NASA a goal and you gave a bold goal that people want to work on and people want to do and people want to be a part of, you don't need a lot of money to do that. First message from Jared, Star Trek stuff in 2030. That's what I want. Yeah, that'd be nice, man. Goal and commitment. Bingo. Will you cover Boom's supersonic flight tomorrow? Abso-freaking-lutely. Maybe, Sewer Rat. They said maybe 2026. Preaching to the choir. I'm the type of guy to try to build a flying saucer. My guy, let's go. We should have tricorders by now. This is ridiculous. I mean, we kind of got them. This is kind of close. It's good enough. Like that. Hey, that's pretty good. But this technology is the result of spending on your spaceflight program. Oh, that's weird. And nobody ever stops and says that part. Everybody says like, oh, your smartphone is way more powerful. It's like a bajillion times more powerful than the computer that people landed that they used to land people on the moon. But everybody really even stops and thinks that the miniaturization of electronics that were required to put a flight computer on a spacecraft are the reason we have stuff like this. Whoops. Vert, your dream is to work at SpaceX one day. Why? Well, I want to be a part of building the future. There you go. That's it. Maybe an off-topic question, but can you look up dancing T handle in 0G and explain why this happens? That's called intermediate axis theorem. Intermediate axis theorem. This happens because the center of gravity is not aligned with the center of mass of the thing that's spinning is not necessarily in line with the axis of rotation. So that T-grip goes this way, and then it seems to flip over and go this way, and then it seems to flip back, right? That is the exact thing that Earth does when it precesses. When Earth kind of weeble wobbles around, it's doing the exact same thing. Now, Earth doesn't flip around like this. It's a little different, right? Because Earth is a slightly different shape than a T-grip, right? This is like an over-exaggerated version. Now, in the seconds before that T-grip actually flips over, right? It starts kind of weeble wobbling around. That's what Earth does. Same exact thing. Because Earth's geometric center is not necessarily where its center of mass is. It actually kind of just moves around because at the center of Earth is a giant iron nickel jello mold of awesome heat. So the center of mass is kind of moves around. That's why Earth never like totally flips over like that T-grip. But it's called intermediate axis theorem. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty neat stuff. Isn't the whole thing with Star Trek is that they use an Alcubierre drive? I don't think it's an Alcubierre drive. Alcubierre drives, or at least the theories for them, didn't come until the 90s. Star Trek's from the 60s. I say this a lot, but there's still quite a few folks saying we should focus money and resources to do better things here on Earth. Investing in your space program does do better things here on Earth, Vert. That's always my answer to them. Smartphones are a pretty good example of this. Water purification is another example of this. Anybody have a Tempur-Pedic mattress? That's another example of this. Solving the problems that we need to get humans to live in deep space and work in deep space and spread our dexterity to the stars helps us here on Earth. For not a lot of money, to be honest with you. You know, all these people say SLS is so expensive. SLS is so expensive. That's investing billions of dollars into jobs here that design stuff that, frankly, we wouldn't have designed otherwise. Like, spending stuff on space does improve stuff on Earth. It improves quality of life here, even from a jobs perspective. Like, forget the benefits that come from inventing stuff that could be super beneficial to people. Like, spending stuff on space is spending stuff on Earth. It's the same thing. It's not that's a big false dichotomy that people that don't understand how spaceflight funding works like to spout around like there's some pseudo-intellectual or something. On the topic of specific goals, what do you think SpaceX's next goal might be after achieving a self-sufficient colony on Mars? Using it as a big gigantic gas station to go further into the solar system, Daytal. That's what Gwen Shotwell has said. SpaceX eventual goals want to culminate with a trip to Alpha Centauri. That's not me making it up. Gwen Shotwell has been very vocal about this in multiple like she had a TED talk about that once. And then she's said this multiple times at IAC. SpaceX has got their eyes on the prize. Their long-term goal is to get to Alpha Centauri with people. Yep. Hi, and would a Mars base be underground? I don't know, Meatsack. Anybody going to design an excavator to send over there? If so, sure, because some people with a shovel might take a little while. Yes, but the theory came from a Mexican theorist in the 90s who wanted to mathematically prove the warp drive in Star Trek Next Gen was for real for their dissertation. Michael Alcubierre is his name. Gene Roddenberry went to all the physics theorists in the 60s when dreaming up the warp drive. So basically all Alcubierre did was proved what was theorized in the 60s. So if you knew the answer to the question, Sewer Rat, why did you ask it? You mean some sort of boring company? Yeah. Interesting, Andrew. One of Boring Company's stated goals is to miniaturize tunnel boring machines. Gee, I wonder why they're doing that. Why would someone do that? That's strange. Sounds really boring. Yeah, probably. Ship 34 is getting its engines. We'll roll out for static fire on Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, I saw them being moved around on Starbase Live this morning. Actually, let's see what's going on with that crane lift. They get her teed up. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, they did. Here, let's back it up just a little bit. Up, up, and away to the invisible boatmobile. That is a lot of potential energy happening all up in here. Oh, man. Dude, look at that thing move. Oh, that's so cool. Wow. That's impressive, dude. That's impressive. As long as it doesn't convert to kinetic energy, we're good. Yeah. Well, look how level those cameras are. Yeah, I know. The guy that leveled them is really, really cool and totally not fat. Damn, that's cool. Can you summarize how many changes they have made in this new tower? Dude, at face value, I could point out bajillions of things, Gil. The big one that I've noticed is that the chopsticks are shorter, way shorter, which tells me SpaceX is very, very confident in their ability to catch boosters. These things are half the size of the chopsticks on pad A. See how, like, okay, like if we take a look right here, you have two crossbars that go up like that. The chopsticks on pad A have two more. They're double the length. So they shortened them up. Yeah, the one at 39A also has small chopsticks. It's almost like they were made in the same place because they were made in the same spot. I believe these are the same as the KSC ones. They were both made, all these sticks were made at Roberts Road, guys. So yeah, they're all the same. RGV has some good pictures. This is RGV aerial. Oh, money. So you can see the chopsticks right there. This thing, the carriage right there, has been installed. We just saw that move over here. Oh, they started to lay down gravel for the trench. Interesting. Dude, these pictures do not do it justice how deep that actually is. The top of the excavator is in line with the ground height in this picture. That is a super deep trench. Cassie is getting reinforcements and changing the catch dampers. Yep. Yeah, they're going to do a trench. So the OLM, Pad B's OLM is going to be right here, and it's going to be suspended over the trench. I still haven't figured out how the heck they're going to do that, but dude, we'll have to wait and see. Still interesting that it is longer on one side. I think I think that's just an optical illusion because the tower is close on one side versus the other. I'm pretty sure the plate's going to be centered over the trench. I'm pretty sure. I'm fairly confident it's going to be like right here because look at where the commodity lines stack up. It's going to be right there. Like it's going to be, and if you look at where, like, say the center of the ML is going to be like right here. It's dead centered. I think that's just an optical illusion. The only thing I'm worried about is the first stage with the V2 booster. Keeping the hot staging ring as part of the booster is going to massively change its flight dynamics. Yeah, X-Wing for sure. Screwing around with the boosters at this point, yeah. If you're going to change something, you best be making sure that what you change is going to be worth your while because I don't know, man. If my company had figured out how to sequence 33 engine ignition and go from there, I wouldn't be changing that too much. That is not an easy thing to figure out, and SpaceX seems to have it down pat, which is still ridiculous to me. Planned OLM design by Lewis Nags. Dude, I gotta meet Lewis. I don't know this dude. He does follow me though, so wow. See, I always thought that the deck of this thing is going to be at ground height. Right? Because why wouldn't they do that? It's got Hawks, we got a proper trench this time. Exactly, man. Yeah. This is actually, so interesting thing, guys. This is a trench, right? That is a flame trench, but everybody's renders that I've seen are using a flame bucket, not a flame diverter. They're a bucket. Now, what's a bucket? What is a flame bucket versus a flame diverter? What the heck is the difference? A flame bucket has a pad deluge system built directly into the diverter plate. So your deluge system is built in. So if you look, that's a flame bucket, like what you'd see on a test stand. See how the flame diverter seems to be made out of a bunch of pipes? Water pipes. Flow the water through the diverter and then spray the water into the trench. That way your diverter doesn't melt and you also quench the sound with your deluge system. You dissipate the heat and sound energy here. Those are flame buckets. Flame buckets are used for test stands mostly, but my guess is that Starship has too much get up and go to use a conventional deflector plate, which is something that I said back in the day. When they were building the OLM, everybody would ask me, why aren't they putting a flame diverter underneath pad A? Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do that? I'm like, well, because anything you put under there, you're going to lose. And then Flight 1 happened, and what they put under there, they lost. I did call that. I said that. I did say that. Now, a flame bucket is a good way to solve this problem because you're using water to dissipate the heat and the sound energy. That is a good way to have something under there and not have a big hole in the ground when you're done. Except, you know, there's a big hole in the ground that they want to keep in this particular. You get what I'm trying to say. They are building the bucket at Sanchez. Okay, so people have seen it, Phil. All right, cool. That makes more sense. V2 has massive upgrades. OLM2 will have dual quick disconnect arms. Yeah, there's dual QDs. One is for the spin start and the other one is for fueling. Yep. They farmed out the spin start to one thing, and then, yeah, the V2 boosters, right? Or the Block 2 boosters, V2, 1.2 max plus something. They went to a pneumatic spin start manifold on Raptors instead of having 20 pneumatic spin start umbilicals on their OLM. OLM-B is very simplified compared to OLM-A, guys, but that's because the booster design is simplified as well. How did the Saturn V diverter work? So, John, that's a really good question. The Saturn V diverters were swappable. Believe it or not, they were swappable. You could change them out. They used concrete as an ablator on the deflector. Yeah. Yes, you heard that right. They basically made a flame diverter out of concrete, knowing full well the rocket engine was going to completely obliterate it after 1 or 2 launches. So they made a system at 39 where they could just swap it out for another diverter. Yeah. Your flame diverters were on rails. It was on train tracks, and they could pull it out of the flame trench and put another one in. If we go... let me load up Google Earth here. If we go and look at Florida, here we go. Credit to RGV. Got it. I got it, Baron. Thank you. So if you look at 39A, right? There's your flame trench. And if you look, there's railroad tracks, a very wide gauge of railroad tracks. And then you have one track that goes over here and one track that goes there. This switch right here is there. So you have your spent diverter. You take your spent diverter and you roll it over here on the platform to roll it over here on this kind of stand so they can recast the concrete. And then your good diverter moves into position. And then while that's going on, when this is refurbished, they move it back in and then they move it into that position here. There are older pictures. There are pictures that I have in my research folder that I can show you. Give me a second. I'll find it. Here we go. Yeah, see? Yeah, you can't really see it, but the diverter, see it down there? It's on train tracks. And that thing could roll over into this position. And if you notice, there's like a stopper over there. See, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they could put it here, and it has access to a service road where they could basically refurbish the things. There's one in the trench in this picture, and then there's another one right behind the launch umbilical tower. It's right here. You can't see it, though. it's blocking the view, but that's the idea. Was there a picture of the divertors after launch? It looks like sagging Play-Doh. Yeah, it looks like sagging Play-Doh, but it's concrete, if that makes any sense. How do I know that? Well, I haven't seen them for Saturn V, but I saw the divertors for the shuttle. The shuttle had flame deflectors built into the sides. Removable deflectors. The shuttle has deflectors that they could roll in on the crawlerway. Right here and right here. They actually rolled in from this side. That was a modification that they made from Saturn to shuttle. There are gigantic deflectors that shoot the SRB exhaust into the flame trench. Let me see if I got a picture of one. You might be able to see them in this picture. Yeah, they're right there. See it? See this thing? It's kind of blurry, I know. But see that post? That's the backing post. So this whole deflector is on rails, and after they drop the shuttle down and get rid of the engine stands right there, this thing can actually roll this way, and then that whole diverter rolls this way and stays right here. It parks itself right here, so the SRB exhaust gets deflected down into the trench. I might have a better picture of one. Let me see. You can kind of see it right there. It's kind of enveloped in SRB exhaust, but see the posts for the deflector? And you see how it's ablating? See how it's getting really hot? Because it's shooting SRB exhaust into the trench. Yeah, there you go, Baron. These are good pictures. We can use these. And then I'll also get the yeah, there's the pictures of the deluge bucket. See that? That's a flame deflector right there. And see what I mean? Play-Doh. It looks like Play-Doh. I've seen one of the deflectors up close. I've touched it. It looks like Play-Doh, and then you go to touch it and you realize it's concrete. It's ablated concrete. They use concrete as an ablator because rocket exhaust gets so damn hot. Yeah, like I said, Play-Doh. It looks sticky. I know. Looks a little melty. I told you, melted Play-Doh. That's what it looks like. Now, see, that is a flame diverter with a deluge built into the very top. This is not, I wouldn't call this a flame bucket, though. You see these little nubbins up here? They shoot water on either side of the diverter. I wonder if anybody's used it as a slide. It's absolutely happened, Meat. There's no way somebody didn't look at this and go, I could slide down that. Oh, nice, Trey. There you go. Trey over in YouTube chat got me a good picture. There it is. See? They could refurbish the diverter right there. Actually, super cool. Now, SpaceX ain't going to do nothing like this. The Saturn V was not designed to fly a lot. I think what they wanted to scale to, if I'm remembering right, is like one launch a month. So that's still a lot of time to refurbish the deflectors. SpaceX doesn't want to do something like that. The reason why they don't want to do something like that is because Starship needs to fly a lot, and it needs to fly a lot very fast. And so, yeah, something to ponder. They wouldn't go with the swappable deflector design. They're going with a flame bucket, like on a test stand, which has the deluge. Basically, the pad deluge system is the diverter. That's what a bucket is. At least that's like how I would explain it. That's the bucket right there. That is a diverter with a deluge system built into it. The deluge system is just flame deflector shaped. I would call that a flame bucket, like what's that, Stennis? That's what Stennis is. In fact, Stoke Aerospace actually built one that is also a flame bucket here. If we go to Stoke's Twitter account or X account, Here. Stoke has their new test stand that they built out. Here, take a look. I gotta mute it or else it'll tank the YouTube VOD. Now that's them testing their new motor for Nova there. But you only saw it for a split second, right? But look, see? Similar design. See what I mean? Their flame bucket is the deluge. Their flame diverter is the deluge system. That's a flame bucket. That's what I would call it. That's what pad B is going to look like, but much bigger. Turns out that even after all these years, steam is still the right way to manage energy. We figured that out in the 1850s. People on Twitter are saying this is how Pad B will look. What do you got? What is that? This is Space Engineer? This guy's threads are pretty good, dude. How many launches can the flame bucket survive? As long as you have water violent, you're fine. That's why they're going with this design. Flame buckets are designed to be used for long periods of time, and they're designed to have a rocket engine firing in them for long periods of time, i.e. minimal refurbishment. That's why SpaceX is going with this. The other thing is that I think they have to, because once again, we had this conversation. I think you were there for this. This was a number of years ago at this point. Anything that you put under something that makes 15 million pounds of thrust, if you don't give away for all that energy to go somewhere or do something, it's going to obliterate your pad. Anything you put under there, you're going to lose. And I think SpaceX figured that out with their deluge system. Well, they definitely figured it out after Flight 1. So Space Engineers seems to think that they're going to do that, huh? I don't think so. I really... Maybe. I don't know. I don't... It's a very old post. That's from November of last year. I don't think so. If you look at this... Huh. 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 Yeah, Trey, maybe. Wait, it's just Steam always has been, kid. Huh. I think Lewis's design is a lot more, it's a lot closer to what we're actually going to see, but also at the same time, you see this angle right here? And then if you go back to RGV's picture, that's definitely a form for something that's triangular shaped. Huh. 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 How did... I love SpaceX speculation, fun stuff. Of course, I thought they'd have a hammerhead crane on top of the tower for lift, so what do I know? What is this threat? I need to... What is... This OLM had to be mounted using... That OLM had to be mounted using a crane. The current one will be more than likely positioned using SPMTs. Okay, let's just think this through here. The deck as we see it at Sanchez is approximately 6.3 meters tall on its own without pedestals, in which themselves are approximately 1.7 meters tall. We know that they're using the clamp system, so we can safely assume they still interface with the bottom lip of the vehicle. We know their height of their Block 2 ship and Block 2 Super Heavy. We know where the SQD arm is mounted, and under the assumption that the SQD plate does not move the ship, it's a very quick comparison to see that the lip of the booster is almost exactly 13 meters off ground level. Table is
Discovery,
6.3
go and
without
throttle up.
pedestal, so that's a 6.7 meter gap to the ground. It also doesn't add up, at least for something supposed to be positioned via SPMTs. So they can't build a ramp. Properly in line is too close on both sides. I'm very confident that thing will be craned into place, one and done. And for the record, I believe we'll see something like this. Hey, Willord, 67-month resub. Thank you. Since a trench is now being worked on at 39A, do you think we'll see a launch in a catch tower? I think that's in the realm of possibility, Trey. Yes. Is the ship quick disconnect in the same place on Tower 2? I would assume by what Space Engineer said in this post that it's probably in a slightly different spot. But he was using that as his datum to figure out where the booster ends up. It's just very interesting to me. Because if you look at that picture from RGV, they're definitely making something trapezoidal shaped off the side. So he... See, this is what I don't understand, okay? This is what gets me, right? So he's talking about where the ship quick disconnect and everything is, right? And he's right about the placement and everything, right? How did you know it was going to be pyramidal? Like, where'd you pull that one out of? Like, I don't understand where the pyramid design is from this design. Like, with everything that you said, something like Lewis's picture makes way more sense. Where did you get the trapezoid design from? Where'd you pull that one out of? That's what I'm kind of confused about. Where'd you figure that one out? Like, how did you know this? Actually, Tower 2 has 2 mounting spots for the ship quick disconnect arm at 2 different heights. What do you think of the Sabre engine's feasibility? Do you think will allow actual creation of actual space planes? No, the company that made the Sabre engine went bankrupt and shuttered itself 2 months ago, Sewer Rat. The ship quick disconnect is in the same place. However, it has provisions to move up with a crane. Best shape to distribute the load of a rocket? I guess. Trey, there's nothing here, and I'm not trying to call out Space Engineer. I'm not trying to start crap or anything. How could you possibly have surmised this from the given information, from your own given information? How did you do that? Like, why wouldn't you have just come up with what Lewis said? That's where I'm getting a little, with what Lewis rendered, that's what I'm getting a little confused. I'd be curious. Maybe I should go ask him. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's very clear that, look, I mean, he might not be wrong. It's the best shape to distribute the load of the rocket. I mean, I guess. They knew from where he drilled piles, but this post was from November. They hadn't drilled any piles yet, Skeleton. That's a good question. Good point, but they're designing the current pad for as minimal maintenance as possible. That's kind of the whole point. I think of this construction like the tower base. If you design it to be simple, it's less likely to break. I just, once again, where is this pyramidal design coming from? Like, how'd you pull that one out? That's super cool. Like, you seem to have predicted the future here. Load spreading, maybe? Yeah, it's possible, Zeke. I'm not sure how to ask, but if you look at the flame trench picture, why is it in an L shape? This is all this stuff over here is commodities lines, Violent. That's where all the plumbing for super heavy is going to go. Clearly, I'm forming my question wrong. When I say, what do you think of its feasibility, I'm asking from a mechanics physics standpoint. Is it feasible to manufacture? Do you think other companies might use it? Maybe this is a better way to put it. So you're asking me if the technology works to make SSTOs, are we going to make better SSTOs? Yeah. 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 It's kind of, it's not that you're not phrasing the question right. It's, I mean, if you want to phrase it like that, yeah. Yes, that's the answer. I don't know. Yeah, I would hope so. But then again, the last time somebody came up with something for supposed SSTO technology, Venture Star, we invented it, proved that it worked, and then didn't use it. So, no? Yes? Stare, no. But apparently I don't know how to ask my question right. Let me go back and look at your original one. What do you think of the Sabre engine's feasibility? I think Sabre can work. I think it'll work. The problem is the company that had the intellectual property for that folded, and I don't know who absorbed the IP, and it's probably going to get lost in the mountain of defense contract patents or something. Second of all, I think Sabre engine is absolutely feasible. Yes, that could absolutely be a thing. It should have been a thing a long time ago. We proved that we can do stuff like this with the SR-71, with the J-58s. If that technology does mature sufficiently, we should use it, and we will. But reaction engines, like I said, they folded. They folded, which really sucks, but... The tower base has a similar pyramidal design with verticals on the platform side. Yeah, Morg, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, if it matches the design that's covering up the drawworks, yeah, that's what makes the most sense. It's still ridiculous to me how big that thing actually is. They almost got her mounted. Nice, Erwin. Question, what does the deluge water in the flame trench deflector on pad B go? Do they vent it or is it closed cycle? It gets vented, Watcher. Yeah, so they run the water through the bucket to keep the bucket from melting, right? And then it gets shot out. And that is simultaneously your cooling mechanism for your flame deflector. That's why I call it a flame bucket and not a diverter. A flame diverter that has an active cooling system in it is a flame bucket. That's my distinction here. So the water that's used, right? The water that's used to carry the heat is going to turn a little bit into steam. And after it goes through the bucket, it's going to get shot out into the rocket exhaust. And that will be used to quench sound and dampen the energy of those gases coming through the trench. That's what spraying water on the pad does. It dampens your sound energy and it dampens your heat energy. Why do you want to dampen sound energy? Rockets are so ridiculously loud, sound can reverb off the ground, off the deck of the pad, and actually damage the rocket. And I don't know if you guys have seen it. Starships, the sound waves coming off of Starship are so violent that the change in pressure actually perturbs the air. You can see the damn sound coming out of this thing, which is crazy to me. That's why you got to spray water on the pad. It quenches the sound. It dampens out the sound energy so the rocket doesn't damage itself. And it also takes a lot of energy out of the gases coming out of the rocket. And also, in this particular case, it protects your pad from just ending up being a gigantic hole in the ground like what we saw on Flight 1. That's what ruined a few engines on Flight 1. Yeah. Well, Dan, on Flight 1, it kicked up so much dust that some of the dust came back up and belted some of the engines. Yeah, Watchers, that was a good question, dude. Here's my question, better explained. Dust, more like tons of concrete, yep. Okay, why is the tower not centered over the trench? Okay, I got you. All right, so your chopsticks, Violent, have about 120 degrees of motion. So the chopsticks can have something here, they can have something here, and they can have something here. How do you get the rocket? How do you get the rocket on the pad without dumping your Starship or Super Heavy into the flame diverter? Seriously, if you brought a Starship here, the chopsticks can't move 90 degrees. The chopsticks can't point this way, right? You need to be here. You need to be out here somewhere so the chopsticks can turn and get at it. That's why the tower is offset to the trench. So you can have a place to stage your rockets to lift them up and put them on the pad. Mm-hmm. Does that make more sense? Here. The pad looked like Reactor 4. Yeah, it definitely got cooked, that's for sure. That makes sense. So here, look at pad A, right? So pad A is built like how you said. It's built the same way, right? You're directly on here, right? But with pad A, it doesn't have a flame trench right here, so they can stage right here. There's not a trench that goes, you know, this way, right? They can put it out where that trench would be, right? You could basically put a booster or a super or a Starship right here, lift it up and put it on there with this design, with the pedestal design. Can't do that with the trench design because the trench gets in the way. So yeah, that's the reason. It's offset on purpose. So the chopsticks can pivot, pick up something right here, and then put it on the pad right there. That cover it sufficiently? Once again, this picture's coming from RGB Aerial. RGB posted this on his X account. It's good stuff. Oh, that picture's so gnarly, dude. Wait, can we see the trailer? Where's the trailer? Hey, there it is. You can see the mast. There's the trailer that I put up and didn't level. It's right by the Civil War trail sign. See that? See, that's the NSF trailer. You can see it in this shot. There it is. All right. It's leveled in this picture. I can tell because of the way it is. Or something. You can tell because of the way it is. That's pretty neat. I'm proud of you, buddy. Thank you. Thanks, Dad. Hard to forget the leveling incidents that you keep bringing it up. I'm doing it to protect myself, because if I don't bring it up, you will. The new commodities trench is so cool. Let me see. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Yep. So yeah, with this design, SpaceX is going to have one fuel farm that can feed either pad. That's what that big old trench is right there. That's where the methane and oxidizer lines are going. And they go over here. They go past the pad. They go around and come in right here. Hey, you remember that time with the leveling? No. I don't know what you're talking about, Bacon. Will the overhauled trench at pad A have to be one-sided instead of pad B, which splits in two? Yes, I was talking about this on the Chopstick Lift stream this morning. I really don't think that SpaceX is going to redo pad A unless they absolutely have to. Yeah. Vandenberg is my case in point for this. Vandenberg's transporter erector is the oldest transporter erector in the SpaceX fleet. That thing was built in 2011. It's almost 15 years old. Can you believe that? A piece of SpaceX hardware, 15 years old. And they're still using it, and they have no plans on stopping. The Vandenberg transporter erector is their old design. That's their very old design. That design for the Vandenberg TE is derived from Falcon 9 1.0, from their original transporter erector at Pad 40, which got obliterated in 2016. SpaceX has been known to keep using this hardware. What I think they're going to do is just modify Pad A. They're just going to modify it a little bit to be able to support a Block 2 booster design and then go from there. There's no need to change it. Why would you change it? Urgency is a big thing here, and launch pads take a long time to make. Why would you willingly incur more downtime for your launch pad when you have a lot of Starships to launch before 2026? I don't think SpaceX would do that. I think they would make minimal modifications to the pedestal, OLM-A, to be able to support Block 2 boosters and go from there. How do they spin start on Pad A? They have 20 umbilicals that connect to 20 Raptors. That would all have to be redone. Or just leave it there and just make a quick disconnect and just don't use that. The reason why the second OLM has 2 booster quick disconnects is because one is for pneumatic commodities to spin start your outer 20 Raptors on Super Heavy, and the other one is the same thing that we see at Pad A. Do you think once Pad B is optional, they will redo Pad A? They will redo what I just said, Katra, yeah. They'll probably just modify OLM-A. They'll modify the donut to be able to accept this and go from there. Because that's exactly what they did with Vandenberg. The Vandenberg transporter erector was built for Falcon 9 1.1, I believe, is what it was built for. And now it's launching it's launching Falcon 9 Block 5, which is, I believe it's Falcon 9 V1.2 full thrust Block 5. If we're following SpaceX's bizarre nomenclature. Yeah. So, point is that was designed to launch a much older version of Falcon 9, but they made modifications to its frame to launch newer Falcon 9s, and they kept what they kept. They kept the stuff they didn't need to change. So I think they'll probably just make minimal modifications to the OLM and go from there. And I don't even think they'll modify the chopsticks. We were talking about how they might cut the chopsticks in half, cut them in half right there, demolish all this and build that instead. Like, why? Why would you do that? Don't do any of that. This works. Just modify it to work with your newer boosters and go. That's what SpaceX has done in the past. And Chris B said that was a good idea for what it's worth. So, also you could see Danger Dune in this picture. That's Danger Dune right there. See, there's the Danger Dune, and that is the ocean. The more you know. Why do they need the OLM to light up 20 engines and not the 13 ones? Great question. That's a good one, Trapo. Think about it. Let's talk it through. Why have something on Starship and the launch pad to be able to start 20 engines and not the inner 13? Why would you need that? Let's think about it. I'm serious. To talk it through. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Talk it through. What engines need to be restarted and what engines don't need to be restarted? That's right, Jack. You got it. That's right. The outer 20 engines only need to be started once. They only need to be started once when you're attached to the pad. So why put the paraphernalia to be able to restart those things on Super Heavy? They only need to be started once. Once the 20 engines on the outer ring of Super Heavy shut off, you don't need them again. They're just dead weight or dead mass. Now the inner 13 engines, those ones need to relight now, don't they? The chines that are on Super Heavy, those kind of spikes that are coming off the sides of Super Heavy, those house commodities to be able to spin start the inner 13 Raptors because they need to restart them. That's the reason. This isn't a new concept, dude, to be honest with you. Shuttle's been doing that. Shuttle did that for 30 years. The RS-25s or the SSMEs that are on the space shuttle could not be restarted in flight. Because why would you need to restart the shuttle engines in flight? If you need to restart the shuttle engines in flight, you have a much bigger problem than trying to restart the engines, because that means you didn't make it all the way to space. Right? That's bad. We don't want that. So part of the ground launch sequencer, the GLS for the space shuttle, included the starting mechanism for the RS-25s. It's a pneumatic spin start system. But yeah, that's a good question, Trapo. But I like to talk through this so I can give you a good explanation and hopefully you learn something. Plus the OHMS engines. Yeah, well, the OHMS engines aren't going to do what the main engines are going to do, right? But there were times where the OHMS engines were firing while the three main engines were firing to give you that little extra kick of TWR. Yeah, there are times where all 5 engines on the back of the shuttle were firing during ascent, which is actually super cool. That's super awesome. Possible engine relight after an engine out? For Starship or the shuttle? For the shuttle, no. If an engine goes out, you got a big problem. The shuttle... If an engine goes out and you lose even, like, probably... If you lose 5 seconds of burn time on one of those engines, you're screwed. Unless it happens in maybe the, like, final minute and a half of ascent, you're not going to space. That's how close the shuttle is to getting into space. It's right on the ragged edge of getting that beefy freaking orbiter into space. Two engine blue, very bad. Yep, that's not that. Yeah, if you heard that over the radio, you had a bad day. Or you're about to have a bad day. Both. So for Starship, the outer 20 engines only need to be lit during ascent. So they only got, what, like a 2-minute, 30-second flight time? If one goes out, Katra, it's easier to just have the other engines compensate and just go from there. Have your guidance system compensate rather than trying to introduce a mechanical restart system, right? Right. But the crazy thing is that on Flight 7, when Super Heavy did its boost back, it's funny you mentioned this. On Flight 7, when Booster 14 did its boost back, it had the 3 engines going the entire time, turned around to do the boost back, went to relight 10 engines, and only 9 relit. So it boosted back on 12 engines. And then get this, when it went to land, it landed on 13. Well, 3 technically, but they went to relight for the landing burn and the hover slam, and that engine that didn't go for boost back went. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. Starship clearly has some kind of capability to do what you're describing, or Super Heavy does at least. Yeah, can you believe that? It boosted back on 12 and landed on 13. It was able to get that engine that didn't go for boost back to light again, which is... All right, it fixed itself. It fixed itself in flight. So clearly there's some type of capability to do what you're describing. Why design something like the shuttle, which barely gets to space? Shouldn't there be bigger margins than the 5 seconds on a human-rated craft? Trey, welcome to space flight. That's why. Welcome to space flight. Dude, one time, an Atlas V went to fly, right? And the RD-180 on the first stage stopped like a couple seconds too early. So like 3 to 4 second burn time on your first stage. I forget what it was. It was not a lot. It was not a lot of time. The Centaur stage, the second stage. Here's how close these margins are. The Centaur stage had to burn for an extra 2 minutes to compensate for the 3 second too early engine shut off. Yeah. That was the closest time Atlas V has ever gotten to failure. Yeah, you guys, these things, the short story is that our Gravwell sucks. These things are they're on the ragged edge of working because they need to be on the ragged edge of working because that's the only way to get into space. Once again, we're talking about delta V and mass fraction and stuff. These things are right on the ragged edge of not working. Rockets usually have like 98 to 99% mass fraction. So like 99% of it is fuel. If it was 95, it's not making it into space. That's why rockets are made out of all these lightweight exotic materials, carbon fiber, aluminum. Now, somebody came along and decided to use stainless steel, which kind of... But there's a reason why Starship has a lot of thrust, because it basically brute forces itself into space. That's what happens when you have a full flow stage combustion. Why do you think SpaceX chose to do that? Because stainless is heavy. It's a lot to move for what it's worth. But yeah, these things are right on the ragged edge of working, man. Yeah, the shuttle, yeah, basically every time the shuttle launched, it always fell back down a little bit. So the boosters would push it up. The shuttle would fly on its arc, right? And it would get past apogee and then it would fall a little bit. Because even with 3 RS-25s pushing you, your mass fraction is butthole. Your mass fraction is terrible because you have this big orbiter with these gigantic wings on it. Even then, that's still really, really close to not working. Like I said, the shuttle is crazy for what it does. People, you just don't get how good that design actually is for what it is. It was pretty dang good for a product from the early 70s. It's pretty good, dude. Pretty good. Like, what that thing does is pretty absurd. Maybe the full flow startup was unstable due to the flip. It's most likely propellant feed rising. That's probably why the engine didn't fire. Because with Starship, why if the computer is getting a weird reading, why even try to restart it? Don't risk blowing the thing up. Just fire the other engines and compensate. It's easier that way. Lava Eagle, you have a question regarding engine startup procedures. Do the turbopumps spin up fully before receiving any fuel? Couldn't that cause cavitation once propellant comes in contact with the pump? No. Yes. Let me restart, Lava, because that's a good question. I got excited. Do turbopumps spin up before receiving any fuel? Absolutely not. They get primed. That's what engine thermal conditioning does. It primes the engine and it cools it to the proper operating temperature. Because if you tried to just dry fire one, you're going to get what happened to Rocket Factory Augsburg, and the thing will just blow up. Even RFA, they weren't necessarily having feeding problems, but they had cavitation on their LOX impeller. They had a fire inside of their fuel, inside of the impeller, because of cavitation. We saw the fruits of that labor. So yeah, they prime the engines. That's what thermal conditioning does. That's a good question, Lava. Yeah, if you don't want cavitation, that is the reason why when we were talking about fuel earlier, Lava, how you have to keep a constant head pressure on those pipes. If even a tiny bit of gas gets in there, you are absolutely screwed. Like, absolutely screwed. Like, SN11 screwed. Yeah. All it takes is just a tiny, teeny little bit to cause a catastrophic failure. Yep. That's how on the ragged edge these things are. I know about chilling and such. What I meant is whether the pump is already spinning before any fuel has come into contact with it. No. When they prime the engine, your pumps are not spinning, Lava. Yeah. Yeah, sorry if that wasn't conveyed correctly. No, they start it when it's basically quote unquote submerged, when the impeller is submerged. Who used stainless steel? SpaceX. WRT to the shuttle, they were intact and had abort options for a single engine failure throughout the entire ascent and contingency. Yeah, I know all about those, Bill. There's RTLS, which thank God no one ever did that. There's two engine calls, single engine calls. There's the transatlantic landing, or TAL. There's abort once around, there's abort to orbit, and then there's MECO. That's your abort contingency procedures. Yeah, I know all about that, dude. Absolutely. The RTLS one basically means you're dead. Yeah, you get a call for RTLS, you're jump. You know, you said it, and you're right. The RTLS, yeah. The contingency abort options that include in-flight bailout. RTLS was basically fly the shuttle back down, get it close to the ocean, and jump. Parachute out. Yeah, that's basically death. You basically die. Thankfully, that never happened. How much power does a typical turbo pump produce? They must make a ton of horsepower. Shaft horsepower, Ryzen? Oh, I don't know. Depends on the pump. You know what? I'll Google it. We'll use the F1. Now, keep in mind, it's hard to measure rocket engines in horsepower, okay? That's like measuring distance in meters a second. You're not using the right form of measurement there. But with a rocket engine, we can figure out how much shaft horsepower its gas generator is making, okay? Now, what does that mean? So most rocket engines in their design, I'm just bringing everybody up to speed here. Most rocket engines in their design need to feed fuel very, very fast to make gas go very, very fast out the bottom, okay? That's the plain English way of saying it. So how do you do that? You could use an electric motor. Electric motors are heavy, though. There are some rocket engines that use basically electronic fuel injection. They have an electronic fuel pump. They have an impeller that's attached to an electric motor. Rocket Lab does that with their Rutherford engines. That only works to a certain scale and size. Bigger rocket engines like the F1 use a gas generator. It's basically a jet engine that's turning a fuel pump. So you have a turbine that's moving a fluid impeller. Okay. Turbo pump. Right? It's a jet engine that's driving an impeller. That's driving your fuel pumps. Horsepower of that can absolutely be measured, right? Because your horsepower is a mechanical thing. You measure mechanical horsepower, right? Like horsepower isn't thrust. That's two different things, right? So with that being said, you want to know what the gas generator on an F1 makes. How much power? This is the turbine. This is the fuel pump on a Saturn V motor. Here, check this out. Keep in mind this is off Wikipedia, but I know this information is correct. A gas generator is used to drive a turbine which drove separate fuel and oxygen pumps, each feeding the thrust chamber assembly. That is basically par for the course for any rocket engine. The turbine was driven at 5,500 RPM, producing 55,000 brake horsepower, or 41 megawatts of power. How much horsepower do rocket engines make? Yes, all of it. Does that answer your question, Ryzen? Think about it, dude. Think about the energy that you need to accelerate something to 7,600 meters a second. That's like four times the speed of a rifle cartridge. I'm sold. Swap it into Miata for stream content. I think an F1 motor is bigger and heavier than a Miata. This would be like trying to put like an 8V71 in an NA. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the motor is like bigger than the car. Radial turbines are crazy. Lava Eagle, if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think the gas generator on the F1 was a radial design. I'm pretty sure it's an axial. Unless I just read that it was radial and I completely missed it. I'm pretty sure the gas generator is an axial gas generator. I think. Could be wrong. X, what is this? Could the crew of the shuttle eject the SRBs in external tank to do an RTLS or no? There is a manual separation mechanism on the shuttle's console. It's actually on the center console. There's a manual command sequence to separate SRBs in the ET. 1, that was never used. 2, do not separate the SRBs before 2 minutes and 30 seconds or else you die. Those buttons are there in case the separation mechanism doesn't work. Yeah. The automatic sequencer doesn't work. It's a manual override for the automatic sequencer. Yeah, but the SRBs, because no shut off, you do it before booster separation, you die. Yeah, you die. In fact, you could probably switch it, and the computer would probably be like, "No, don't do that." X-Wing, what does this say? It's 2050. EJ is NASA administrator, and we have an orbiting construction company. Do you prioritize building science hab stations in orbit or ships to explore and settle other planets? Build ships with science and habitation stations that could explore other planets on orbit. Test it as a space station first and then send it. You're welcome. With spaceflight, I do not compromise. We should not compromise, X-Wing, as spaceflight fans. We should not compromise over it. I will have my cake and eat it too if I'm in charge. And I'll find a way to do it. Because there's always another way with engineering. Always. Birch, you recently read about electrostatic thrusters. You're talking about Hall effect thrusters. Yeah, I say it in quotes as it currently barely generates anything above 1G of force. Yeah, you're not generating anything with those things. The reason why isn't because of the thruster design, Birch. It's because of how much electricity we can generate in space. The reason why ion thrusters do not have a lot of thrust is because they use solar panels. Think about if you hooked your car up to a solar panel, you put a solar panel on the roof of your car. That's not really going to work. It's not going to get you very far unless you take your electric motor and make it use not a lot of electricity, right? In which case, you barely have enough to probably even overcome the rolling resistance of the rubber tires on said car. I.e., solar-powered cars need to be like as light as a paper airplane for it to work correctly. Ion thrusters is the exact same idea. If we find a better way to generate power, you can scale up ion thrusters to produce a useful amount of thrust, right? But ion thrusters are being used right now. Starlink satellites use them. Was there ever a contingency plan where mission control takes control of the shuttle if the crew for some reason is unable to? No, the shuttle was crewed so the crew could take command. There's no, Mike, that was never a thing. The second part, did the shuttle have capability of unmanned flight? It could have done it. You would have need to hotwire a lot of things. You basically need to hotwire the control mechanisms to the computers, which are behind the lockers on the mid deck. Do I know how to do that? No. Did I know it was a thing that they could do? Yes. The reason why it was a thing that they could do is to automatically land a shuttle if there was something wrong with it and they weren't sure it was going to come through re-entry correctly. It was never done. But it was a contingency. Shuttle could land like Buran with nobody on board, technically. It was never done, and it was not something that was built into the original design. Hello.
Hi. We have now gone 0 days without getting into an accident in a parking lot. But it wasn't my fault this time.
Is the car okay?
Would you like to come see it? It's not bad. and he's very clear it wasn't my fault.
Did you get the other person's information?
I did.
Excuse me for a second.
I was parked. I was standing still.
I'll be right back. Ugh. Okay. Ugh. Yeah, Bacon, come outside. I hit something. No, somebody backed up into the Fusion's door. It's not bad. There's no damage to the unibody for people that care about cars. It's just got a big freaking dent in the door. Primo's fine, Sewer Rat. I knew she was fine because she walked up and told me about it, which is why the first thing I asked was about the car. You forgot to ask if Primo was K before asking about the car. Yeah, I was able to put that together if she walked in and told me that the car got hit, Yarg. But you guys didn't see that, so... It's probably a dent we could pull out, dudes. It's just that the paint's chipped. The paint's chipped down to metal, so... Painting. It's not that big of a deal. Bree got the guy's info, so...
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Yeah. Have you seen the Parade of Planets yet? I saw it when we were in Boca, Lenprod. Touch-up paint kits with duplicolor. Yeah, Bob, we can do a... Yeah, we could do it up. I just got to pull the dent out. Fortunately, I know this is going to sound really stupid, but it's a really big dent. Big dents are easy to pull. It's the small ones that are a pain in the butt. So, yeah. Well, yeah, main thing is she's all right. Yeah, Mark. She wouldn't walk up to the garage and told me she crashed the car if she wasn't okay. So that's why I just forwent that question. But yeah, Bree's fine. Car's okay. It's just on the door, thankfully, so it's not on the unibody of the car. So it's fine. But that's it's quite interesting because it's the passenger side door on the driver's side. Because it's a sedan, it's got 4. The passenger side rear door is also dented for the exact same reason. So we have a Fusion that has both rear doors bashed in for the same exact thing because somebody hit the car when it was parked. What are the odds of that? It is now symmetrical. It really is. We have symmetrical dents. So, all right. Wrap the car instead of painting it. That's not a bad idea. That's why I'll never get an expensive daily. It's a Ford Fusion, Cody. And yes, I agree with you. All of my dailies are, well, the Fusion actually is a pretty nice car, but it's not like a Ferrari, you know what I mean? I mean, let's be real. Spaceflight doesn't pay good enough for me to have a Ferrari. And even if I did have enough money to buy a Ferrari, I probably wouldn't. You know why? Because you could have a lot more fun for a lot less money with cars that you do not care as much as you care about a Ferrari with. That was a sentence. Yes, that worked. Okay, cool, sweet. Cover the paint chip with a giant target that says "hit it here." Miata. That's right, Miff. That's always the answer. I love Fusions. Ford Fusions. So overseas, guys, it would be a Mondeo, the Ford Mondeo. That's a fantastic car. I'm really pissed that Ford doesn't make it anymore because it's a great car. I really wish they would make it again. Whistling Diesel begs to differ. I'm not Cody Coltec, all right? And I don't steal people's Gen 1 Dodges either, okay? So hopefully if we do meet Cody, it's not under those scenarios, all right? Because I'm not him. Was that an EU car? Yeah, Meat Snack. It started as the Mondeo, and then they brought it over here as under the Fusion nameplate because of brand recognition. No one over here knows what a freaking Mondeo is. But the last 2 generations of Mondeo, actually, well, 2 generations asterisk of Mondeo did end up in the United States. The older Mondeos from the 90s and the 2000s, they called those SVT Contours. They called them Ford Contours. And then the newer versions of Mondeos from like 2012 to 2020, they're Ford Fusions. That's what they're called. I just want to see more cars with FPC engines. FPC? Arian Rod, what do you mean? FPC. Why is that blanking? I know what that means, but I don't know what that means. So an EU Mondeo is just an NA Fusion. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. SVT Contours are sick for what it's worth. And yes, that is like Brimo's daily driver. And I drive it around in the winter because I don't like driving my cars on salty roads in the winter. That said, give me a Falcon any day. I wish. Have you seen any Renault Twingos in the U.S.? Renaults are very rare around here, Ryzen. If you do see Renaults or Peugeots or Citroens or anything, it's usually a hobbyist car because they don't sell them here. They did sell Peugeots here for a little while into the 90s, and then they stopped. Oh, flat plane crank. Yeah, duh. Sorry. I just want to see more cars with flat plane cranks. Nothing beats the old Aussie Ford. Shame we stopped making them. Carhill, as a car aficionado and a Ford aficionado, what happened to Geelong just pisses me off. And I'm not even Australian. That just pisses me off. Just screw you. All right? Screw all of you. Okay? Okay? Yeah. Unacceptable. And like I said, dude, I ain't even Australian. I don't even have a horse in this race, okay? It still pisses me off. What they did to the Commodore is not okay. Not okay. All right? Not all right. Stop it. Why would you do this? Hey, arriving late. Missed the rocket talk. Well, Northern, we were talking about cars because somebody just backed into Bremo when she was driving home from doing errands. So that's what prompted the car talk. We were talking about gas generator power outputs right before that. Yeah, Carhill, it's stupid. Like, why? Like, what the heck's that about, man? Yeah, Northern, everything is fine, dude. We're good. Yeah, it's just my car has a huge dent in it now that I have to fix because it chipped the paint. I don't care about the dent, to be 100% honest. I mean, it does screw the resale value on the car, but whatever. It's chipping the paint. If it chips the paint, the metal's going to start to rust, and up here, a car will rust out very quickly if you don't have it painted. Phil, we'll check that in a second. Time to take out the rattle can. We'll try to do it right. Like I said, dudes, what they did to the Commodore is unacceptable. Oh, see, there we go. That's what we want, right? That's what we want. You know, everything is going real good. All these are good. Good. What in the name of kangaroos is that? Why isn't it going to a body shop on the guy's insurance who hit you? Because that screws the Carfax and screws your retail value. What is this? What the hell is this? What is that? What? Oh. Oh. Oh God. Oh God, I'm gonna puke. Oh God. No. Yes. Just no. It's an Opal. That's right. What is this? The hell is that? Gross. Disgusting. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you look, the VF Commodore is 2013 to 2017. This one was 2018 to 2020. You know why? Because it's a piece of junk. It's a freaking rebadged Opal. Why? Why, world? Why are you like this? It doesn't need to be this way. It doesn't need to be this way. Doesn't need to be this way, man. Give me 1 second. Doesn't need to be this way, okay? It could be this way. Look, it could be that way. We could have it could be this. We could have this. It could be this way. We could be doing it this way. Why aren't we doing it this way? I don't know. Anyway, back to rockets. Sorry. Thank you for coming to my car talk. The mentioned city where those Commodores were built, Rüsselsheim, isn't that far from you, about 100 kilometers away. Nice, William. There you go. Because it goes in the square hole. XBs are cool, but XYs are peak. But XB. 351 Cleveland. 4-speed. There you go, Aaron Rod. Yeah. 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 Never get rid of the GT350. Would you just look at it? You drive around an XB. A Scion XB is not a Falcon XB, okay? All right, then. Don't get confused. You learn to drive in a VS Commodore. I do have a soft spot for Australian muscle cars, man. The XB is my favorite, dude. Yeah, XBs are beautiful car. Stellantis. It's a good joke, Ryzen. So is your Ford Fusion dent maxing? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It goes in the dent hole. I'm looking to get a new car at the moment, and that is tough to find anything that doesn't look like it was designed by a very tired committee. Soft spot? I wonder why. Pursuit Special? I mean, that has a lot to do with it. That's an XC Falcon, which is... Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. Oh, no, excuse me. Yeah, mate. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty big fan of these things right here. Yeah. Oh, look at that car. It's a nice car, mate. Real good. It's got a supercharger on the top. Goes fast. It's missing the front kit, though. Now, that did it. But what really made me love XB and XC Falcons the most was, believe it or not, a documentary that I watched from Eric Bana, an Australian actor who has a Falcon XB, and he basically modified it to go rally racing in the Targa Tasmania, which is it's a great documentary. It's called Love the Beast. Ever since then, I'm like, yeah, I like those. Those are cool. Bana's car is super nice. It's a super cool car. What the heck is an aluminum Falcon? Yeah, right. When I first joined, I thought you were talking about Arduinos. We could do that. I had to pass up on a trip to Perth next month. Bummer. That sucks. Yeah, Hawks, that's like one of my favorite car documentaries around, dude. And I love XB Falcons because of it. Just mate, look at the utility, mate. Look at all the things that you can do with this. It's perfect. It's the perfect car. Look at it. It's a business up front, party in the back, man. Look at what they took from us. Look at what they took from us. Look at what they took from us. Look at it. El Camino, that was a Falcon XB Ute, which is the American equivalent would be a Ranchero, which was the first car truck. Chevy copied it and made the El Camino, and then made a lot, and then somehow they think making more entitles them to the name. The Ranchero did it first. Sorry, Chevy guys. Cope and seethe. You knew to with a Ranchero in high school. I love Rancheros. Rancheros are mint. Yeah, but the Rancheros sucked. Hey, you don't... Shh. 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 You'd put dualies on a Ranchero? I like you, Bright. I like you. Anyway, any other rocket questions, dudes? I can talk about cars all night. We covered a lot of ground on Space News today. How long have we been doing it? Oh, 4 hours. Okay. Although nowadays I'm seeing more American-sized use on the road. We have bloody Rams over here now. You got Dodge Rams over there? I'm sorry. Wait, I got a question, Carhill. I got a question. Do people in Dodge Rams drive like trash over there?
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Slaps Hood, this beauty right here is what you need, the Thunder Cougar Falcon bird.
Thunder Cougar Falcon bird. They do. They do. Okay. All right. Thank you. Will the tower need to be extended for the Block 3 Starship vehicles? I think the OLM is mounted lower, Vargon, on Pad B. They mounted it way lower than the OLM, which is up high, so I think they could fit the bigger vehicles in. I'm telling you, certain cars just make you drive like a crazy person. Like if you have like a fast car, like a Mustang, you're going to drive it up a tree. Doesn't matter who you are. I mean, I have a Mustang. I haven't driven it up a tree yet. But also, you see what I'm trying to say? Like certain cars make you, like if you drive a BMW, you just, I'm convinced that on a BMW, moving your hand to hit the turn signal, to put on your directionals, put on your blinkers, is like something that's uncomfortable because no one does it, right? Must be some type of user experience problem. Or into a crowd, leaving cars and coffee. Yeah, I've never done that, but I don't take my Mustang to shows. The Mustang is my daily driver. I have an 08 Mustang. It's my daily. It's a cool car. I drove my Chevelle and Trans Am way worse than the Wrangler. See what I mean? It's very interesting to me because I encounter, I'm not saying that every Dodge Ram driver drives like trash, but I encounter a lot of people driving Dodge Rams that drive like trash. And it's very interesting to me that in Australia, people with Dodge Rams who have no wherewithal to know how people on the other side of the world drive, like en masse, people in Dodge Rams in Australia drive like trash. I'm sorry, that's really funny to me. That's really funny to me, dude. Hey, Suni, welcome back. What do you think NASA should choose as the crew transport cars for Artemis 2 now that Canoe is bankrupt? Rivian. A Rivian delivery van, Vargon, would be historically more accurate. Yeah, Carhill, there you go. You guys have Raptors over there too. Jeez. Imagine driving around in like a Daihatsu Seor or something and having that drive down the road. Yeah, that would suck. That would suck. Ram behavior. Coincidence? I think not. Data driven. Empirically. Any new Glenn updates about the booster? I got nothing, Hawks. Nothing, dude. Somebody driving faster than you makes you drive like a crazy person. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Discovery,
Maybe zero.
go at throttle up.
49-month resub. Yeah, Blue's probably not going to say anything about it until they figure out what's happened. But there's also a possibility that Blue just won't say anything. Thanks for this 49, B0. Appreciate it. We're only going to get more big Utes here, though. Kia's Tasman is a beast. Kia?
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
Hey, Dragonheart. Thanks for the 5 subs. Appreciate it. What? What? Yeah. No. 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 N- Huh. Oh. Huh. I'm impressed. Are you going to be streaming the XB1 tomorrow? Hell yeah, I am, dude. That's not Kia, that's KN. Yes, I agree. Kia's new logo just looks like it says key in Russian. KI. The 2 cab seems very functional for the deep tray, but the workman's tray is also nice. Dude, trucks don't have 4 doors, all right? Work truck, let me rephrase that. Work trucks don't have 4 doors, all right? Dude, that with that being said, I don't never thought I'd say that about a Kia. I don't mind this. That's actually, I like that. That's cool. I would daily the snot out of that thing. Yeah. Yeah, because it's a nice, simple truck. Kia, of all people, seems to have gotten the memo on how to build a truck correctly. Interesting. What motor does it have in it? You could get it with a 2.5 turbo inline 4 or a 2.2 diesel. With a 6-speed. Do you think Blue Origin got enough data to be able to land the next flight? Yeah, Trapo, I think they know exactly what went wrong. And I'm pretty sure I have a good idea of it too.